Chapter 5219. Host Elder, It's Hard Work. Wang Yuanwei is a middle-aged man over half 100 years old. Because he has never done physical work, his body is graceful, and his skin is whiter than many girls. The two exchanged greetings and went to the backyard together, ready to pick up the bride. There was no one else beside him. Wang Yuanwei and the fat monk had leaked their original appearance. The presiding elder, can this little girl really break my natural disaster? Wang Yuan asked in a low voice, shaking his huge body. The king, please rest assured, as long as this woman marries into your royal family and becomes your concubine, you will definitely be relieved of your stubborn illness, said the fat monk righteously. Well, I'm relieved with your words. I have already sent the incense money to the side room, and we have settled the two. When the fat monk heard this, his expression leaked out of joy, and he quickly said, Good. Sending the king to the door of the backyard, the fat monk quickly walked to the side room of the front yard. The welcoming ceremony went smoothly. After the Wang Yuan settled the bride on the sedan chair, he went to a carriage in front of him. Li Yushan, who rushed to the outside of the temple, saw the welcoming team that had just started. This time he did not hesitate anymore, and stood directly in front of the road, blocking the team going down the mountain. Why don't you leave? Wang Yuanwei opened the curtain beside him and looked at the servant next to him. In return to the master, someone in front of you blocked the way. On the big day, there will be people who will block the way and ask for money. This is very familiar to the king outsiders. He has married a few concubines in the first half of his life, and he will meet every time. If he had thrown a lot of money before, he didn't care, but this time he spent a lot of money to marry a yellow-haired girl. Knock him away. The king looked warm and angry, but when he lowered the curtain, he realized that this was outside the temple door. He waved his hand helplessly and sighed, Forget it, reward him with a large amount of money, and let him get rid of me quickly. The domestic slave bent over, repeatedly saying yes. Today is my grandfather's day of rejoicing. Now, take this money and get out. The slave directly threw the money on the ground and said impatiently. Li Yushan shook his head tenaciously, I don't want money. No money. The slave looked at him up and down and said with disdain, Why, don't need money, want someone. The other domestic slaves laughed loudly when they heard this, rolling their sleeves and wrists one by one, ready to insert the little guy in front of them at any time. Yes, I want someone. Li Yushan replied lightly. When the servant heard this, the smile on his face slowly disappeared, and his face became cold. The other domestic slaves also gathered around. Li Yushan's words cannot be solved by a severe beating. 3 or 5 evil slaves, do it directly. Fortunately, Li Yushan is not a vegetarian. Although he has never had a fight with anyone, but with the help of some moves the master gave him, 3 punches and 2 kicks knocked these people down. After lightly patted the footprints on his body, Li Yushan walked towards the sedan chair riding the bride. His eyes changed from tough to gentle, as if returning to that summer, the first time he saw the matchmaker in the vegetable garden. Matchmaker? Li Yushan said silently. Several domestic servants who carried the sedan chair put down the sedan chair and backed one after another. Just now, all of them could see Li Yushan's skill clearly. Li Yushan walked slowly to the sedan chair, bent over and opened the curtain. When he saw the bride sitting in the sedan chair, his heart beat quickly. When everything was on his lips, he didn't know where to start. Follow me. Li Yushan finally said the answer in his heart. The bride sitting in the sedan chair was taken aback and said with some doubts, Is it here so soon? After hearing these words, the little Taoist was stunned. This is not the voice of a matchmaker. He didn't quite believe it. He tore off the bride's red hijab, but saw a strange face. Ah! The bride screamed in surprise. Li Yushan grabbed the red hijab and backed away quickly. At this moment, his heart was surprised and happy. The member of the king who was struggling to get out of the carriage stared fiercely and shouted, Boy, you dare to intercept me. Do you know who I am? Li Yushan dropped his red hijab and waved his hand to apologize, but rushed into the temple with joy on his face. The confused member of the king was a little confused, and several servants walked up to him, bowing their heads not daring to speak. Humph! Wang Yuanwei snorted coldly, "Go back first, and I will clean him up after today." "Yes, yes." The welcoming team got up again and headed down the mountain. But Li Yushan went straight to the backyard of the temple, found the vegetable garden, and rushed to the place where the matchmaker lived. "Matchmaker!" Li Yushan shouted loudly. But I looked around and couldn't see the matchmaker. At this time he thought about it. The matchmaker said that his father was a monk in the temple, and he didn't wait for him to go to those monks to inquire. Several monks had already blocked his way with sticks. Who is the father of the matchmaker?" Li Yushan asked cautiously. He knew that the Taoist temple was smashed last time because he took the matchmaker down the mountain, and the matchmaker's father wanted them to meet. "I am." The monk gave way, and a fat monk leaked his figure staring at Li Yushan with a grim expression. "Where is the matchmaker?" "Married." "Impossible, I saw that she is not a matchmaker." Li Yushan shook his head and said. The fat monk yelled firmly, "She is the matchmaker. Kick him out of me." Several monks walked towards Li Yushan carrying long sticks with unkind eyes. These monk heads are not patriarchs, or they are not monk heads. The fat monks are not real monks at all. The fat monk who just wanted to turn around and leave didn't expect this little Taoist priest to be able to solve several monk heads in an instant. But looking at the scars on his body, the fat monk understood it and replaced it with an injury. "Boy, before I get angry, you finally get out." "Where is the matchmaker?" Li Yushan had a premonition that was bad, and at this time he just wanted to see the matchmaker. "She's dead," the fat monk said with a smile. "Are you satisfied with this answer?" Li Yushan's pupils contracted, and he said in a panic, "Impossible." "You don't believe it?" The fat monk was also interested, looking at the infatuated little Taoist in front of him, and then said, "I tell you the truth, she died a month ago in the well behind you." "This is impossible." Li Yushan hurriedly turned around and ran towards the well. At this time, the fat monk made a sudden move. Although he was fat, his movements were very agile and not weaker than Li Yushan. Li Yushan, who had just walked to the well, was kicked out of Suyuan, but he didn't care about the pain, so he got up with difficulty until he saw that the well was as clear as before, and he didn't feel relieved. "Boy, go and accompany her." The fat monk grabbed his neck and pressed towards the well. Chapter 52:20. At this moment, the little Taoist felt another breath. He fought hard to resist, broke free of the fat monk's arm, jumped up and hit the fat monk with a punch. He smashed the fat monk to the ground, and rode back on top of the fat monk, carrying the fat monk's collar, and angrily asked, "Where did you hide the matchmaker?" Without waiting for the fat monk to answer, he only felt a dizziness in the back of his head and fell directly on the fat monk's chest. A cold voice came from behind, "Hurry up, we have to leave overnight." "Second brother, what do you do with this kid?" The fat monk who got up from the ground leaked a smile. If others are shocked when they see Absolute, there are two people who look exactly the same in the world. The two fat monks look exactly the same, but their personalities are different. The second child is indifferent, while the third is like a smiling tiger, with a smile on his face. "Tie it first and throw it in the side room." "Hole, I can finally leave this ruined temple." I don't know when Li Yushan regained his consciousness, but vaguely he heard the conversation between the two fat monks. It turns out that these two Jiangyang thieves who were once from other places fled to this Wangsheng temple to avoid being wanted by the government, killed the original presiding elder, and became a counterfeit monk. Now he has gotten a lot of money from Wang Yuanwei, and he is ready to run away with the money. "Second brother, your trick is really ruthless." This king is not a good thing at first. If it wasn't for his elder brother to hold us, he wouldn't have to hide here for more than 10 years. Now his elder brother is dead and has lost his backing. He will have to finish playing sooner or later. And he was caught by my poisonous heart goo, and he won't live for a few days. "Second brother, you misunderstood what I meant. I mean, it was a cruel trick for you to let that girl marry a member of the king." The fat monk smiled wickedly. If he knew the girl he promised him at the beginning, it was his wife who was born. "My daughter, I guess she will go crazy." "It's a pity, that girl has a weird temperament." After hanging up several times and being stopped, She said she went to see this kid and agreed at a glance, but she jumped into the well when she came back. The second child's eyes were cold. He recalled that 10 years ago, an infertile woman came to the temple to ask for a child, but was eventually ruined by their brothers. It turned out that she was actually pregnant, and the two couldn't bear to kill them when they saw it, but when the child was born, they realized that it was not the two of them. The two brothers strangled the woman in anger. This woman is the mother of the matchmaker and the original wife of the Wang Yuanwei. After the matchmaker was born, the two of them saw that they were girls, so they thought about raising them and selling them to the brothel. Who wanted the Wang members to travel to the temple a few months ago and confessed his life experience. As soon as the two brothers combined, they decided on this poisonous trick. What a pity! That little girl jumped into the well and died. They had to get a woman from the brothel overnight from the field for money. This is also the reason why the two ran away in a hurry. It's all to blame for this stinky boy. He broke his plan, so just kill him. No, just leave him here. After a while, when the king outsider finds something wrong, he will come here to ask for trouble. Just leave this kid here to deal with the king outsider. He didn't even go to shoot and welcome his relatives today. The team? Then complete him. The indifferent monk said lightly, with such a vicious method, he didn't even squat his brow when he said it. Li Yushan trembled his lips, unable to move his body, but tears were left behind his eyes. Snapped. A drop of tears fell on the ground, and blood was dripping in his heart. This night, a fire broke out in the temple. On the second day, Wang Yuanwei went to Shengxi Temple to find trouble. After seeing the charcoal-burning temple and two unrecognizable corpses, he had no choice but to leave. And Li Yushan watched all this from a distance. His whole body was muddy, and there were several hideous scars on his face and body. Although the fire was extinguished, the monks in the temple were all dead, and no one was thinking about rebuilding the temple anymore. Even the sitting position of the immeasurable Buddha collapsed to the ground and no one cared about it. Li Yushan turned and left, and went to the valley that the matchmaker liked very much. In this green valley, there is an extra tomb head with the word, matchmaker, crookedly engraved on the tombstone. That night, Li Yushan killed two fat monks who had lost all conscience, dug up the body of the matchmaker from the vegetable garden, and took her out of the temple where she had been imprisoned for her entire life. Sitting in front of the grave, the little Taoist looked confused, looking at the gloomy sky. His tears had already drained, and he didn't know how to face the future. But Chun Yu said it would go down, as if to shed tears for Li Yushan. Hate in his heart. Hate the indecision once, and hurt the matchmaker. It would be great if he stepped out the threshold at that time and stopped the matchmaker who was leaving. The two stayed and flew. It was not that he hadn't thought about it, but at that moment he forgot to stand in front of the threshold and just couldn't take that step. Now there are two worlds inside and outside the door. Li Yushan remained motionless despite the rain hitting his cheeks. The rain washed away the mud and blood on his body, but it could not wash away the scars in his heart. When he left the valley and returned to Taoist temple, he suddenly remembered that his master is a god. In his eyes, gods are omnipotent, and he has also heard the legend of reviving from the dead. Thinking of this, he rushed into the room and turned out the letter left by the master and the jade pendant. He held the jade pendant in both hands and came to Tianjungxiang, banging his head 3 times. After punching in the letter, look at the line of words on the letter. Like Fanshan, take the jade pendant to the east, and I will see you again. At this moment, Li Yushan rekindled his confidence again. He carefully put the jade around his neck, and the moment the jade pendant was hung on his chest, the letter turned into dust and disappeared in his hand. A large group of information also poured into his mind. A brand new world appeared in front of him. He packed his bags and went to the matchmaker's grave to sit still for an hour. When he finally left, he leaked a smile and said with a smile, "I won't let you wait too long." After speaking, he resolutely left, walked out of the valley of death, and embarked on a path that belonged to him. It is a pity that he never fulfilled his promise in his life, and he still made her wait for too long, until the world collapsed and the universe evolved. According to what the master said, he walked east all the way, condensing chi and became a cultivator along the way. I don't know how many years he has gone east, but he has never forgotten the way back. Finally, When he became immortal through the robbery, his master appeared. Sanho Jinren, who was once a great celestial immortal in the heavens, traveled frequently in the world, and has been able to find out his deeds to this day. He took Li Yushan, who became the queen of the immortals, to the heavens, became his personal disciple, and became the first Taoist of the Tianqing Palace. 100 years later, Li Yushan mastered the way of heaven and was titled Heavenly Secret. Chapter 52:21. Thousands of years have entered the Dian Immortal, and then follow the Master Sanho Jinren to fight the ancient ruins, break out a great reputation, become the emperor, and hope to be the emperor in the future. The immeasurable Buddha who had been enlightened at that time noticed him, because the two had a subtle cause and effect. Heavenly Ji Daojun also visited the immeasurable Buddha and asked about the cycle of life and death through cause and effect. I learned from the immeasurable Buddha that only by becoming an emperor can we find mortal origin fragments from the origin of the heavens. Although mortals are weak, they still have their own origin fragments. Although they can only be regarded as natal fragments, they cannot reach the origin at all. Degree. But when there are enough mortals, they are still part of the origin of the world. After the heavenly mystery Daojun knew this, he became even crazier. In order to become the strongest emperor in He Dao, he insisted on elevating the Dao to the extreme and finally mastered the ultimate way. Afterwards, under the recommendation of the three-show real man, he worshipped Emperor Dongyan and became a direct disciple of Emperor Dongyan. He devoted himself to training only for the success of harmony. The ultimate emperor. Since ancient times, only one person has succeeded, but no matter how many secrets are, let alone only one person succeeds, even if no one has succeeded, he has to fight. Dong Yen saw the disciples' obsession and knew that it was the immeasurable Buddha who had made the wrong idea, but the scars in the disciple's heart could only be resolved by himself, and no one could help him. There is always hurt in the heart, and the state of mind is not perfect after all, and it is the ultimate way. The difficulty of harmony is already very great, and it is impossible for hundreds of millions of practitioners to succeed. Even if Tianji's genius was amazing for eternity, it ended up with a failure of harmony in the end and fell in front of Emperor Dongyan. Before he joined the road, he had been to the past life valley, where it was still the same. Under his protection, the valley was no different from 10,000 years ago, even the tombstone of the Red Year. He is still wearing a Taoist robe, but there is more wind and frost on his body. Looking at the tombstone, Dong Yen once persuaded him, forget it. But he didn't know how to forget, and he didn't dare to forget. This is the motivation for his desperate cultivation. If he forgets it, it would be better to stay in the Taoist temple and die alone. The day before he joined the road, he made a promise when he left this gorge that year. I won't let you wait for too long. If you can't find me, then I will find you below. His grasp of Hadao was not great, and his death was not unexpected, but when he fell, he had a smile on his face and a trace of tears in the corner of his eyes. He smiled and looked at the sky. You still found it. Recalled. The scenes turn around, and the secret of the inheritance smiles faintly, just like the ancients, willing to die and obliterate everything. Good. Hui Qing clasped her hands together, and everything turned into fly ash in front of her. Hong Pao Hui Qing completely disappeared in Hui Qing's heart in the unwilling roar. Now the Tao heart is the only one. The heart is like water. At this moment he is the only one. There is no secret in the world. Reincarnation. Hui Qing said silently, with a smile leaking from the corner of her mouth. The breath that surrounds the origin, turning again and again, is like looking back thousands of times in the previous life. How about reincarnation again and again? The original source trembles. That breath has nowhere to escape, is suppressed by Hui Qing's ultimate source, and finally turns into a breath. This backlog of breath has been in Hui Qing's heart for 30 million years, and now it has completely dissipated. The true spirit in the sea of origin, dancing happily, commented, "This son can become the ultimate emperor in this world. This is my credit, huh? Those idiots dare to question me for breaking the rules. The special rules are broken for the strong, and they just obey the rules, but in the end they can only fall." The true spirit is right, how strict the rules of the gods were at the beginning. The gods' coercion overwhelmed Gaia's starry sky and became the overlord of one party, and the forces built even occupied several long rivers of time and space. But in the end, it's not just a passing moment. Ultimately, it's just the beginning. The little guy keeps on working hard. Eclosion continent. At this time, Hui Qing completely mastered the inheritance of reincarnation. He let out a breath, and this breath exhaled all the filth, and now he is truly detached. With the end of the inheritance, the outer barrier also disappeared. A group of strong people, waiting for the opportunity, are all observing. Now that the enchantment disappeared, the battle was about to start. Wanxing Daijin's aura was extremely overbearing, and directly rushed away the many Dayan immortals around him. Monk Hui Qing. The other Dao monarchs also stepped forward. The scarlet color on the blood moon Dao monarch mountain wandered around, and the strongest people died in his hands. Many Dayan immortals have begun to retreat, and now only the limit can be left. Dayan immortal and some half-trail monarchs. It's really wonderful, so many strong people. Jian Wushuang, who was hiding in the crowd, had just arrived not long. He was still surprised when he left the customs, why his ranking has not changed at all after 1 year, and the rankings of many strong players have not changed. He thought these had become honest and stopped fighting. Who wants to gather all here to watch this kid Hui Qing accept the inheritance? It's strange that these people can hold back for a year without doing anything. Even if you do, you have to leave the Eclosion continent. This is the rule set by those Dao monarchs. Now the Yuhua continent is empty, only here is where there are tens of thousands of Dayan immortal powerhouses, and all the other Dayan immortals have left the Yuhua continent. Nowadays, the protagonist on this continent is Hui Qing. He is the first Dayan immortal to accept the inheritance of the Temple of Qi. Under the full view of everyone, he accepted the treasure of inheritance. A long silver stick. The name, Reincarnation. Hui Qing glanced at the crowd, and was a little surprised when she saw the Taoist monarchs. Now his strength can be said to have undergone a qualitative change. Although he has not reached the 9th round of consummation, his ultimate way has reached the 7th level. This is the peak of the previous life, but not the end of this life. Looking at everyone, he just nodded. 5 Dao monarchs, dozens of half-travel monarchs, the upper limit Dayan immortal, and the 10,000 peak Dayan immortals outside. This battle seems to be indispensable today. You are very strong to be able to let Qishan Temple actively descend the inheritance, but I am not convinced. He was talking about the second-ranked breaking army, and his true strength was also ranked in the top 3, but he was not the emperor in the big power, and the title of Dao Jun was only in the original star. Hui Qing smiled slightly, and the long stick tilted. It goes without saying that he would fight if he wanted to fight. Good. Wanxing Dao Jun clapped his hands and said, Monk, we don't make it difficult for you. As long as you defeat me one by one, you can leave. As soon as Wanxing Daijin's words came out, everyone onlookers took a breath. Lord Wu Dao is actually preparing for a real fight, and listening to the words of Dao Lord Wanxing, if Hui Qing can't defeat them one by one, I am afraid he will walk out of here today. Jian Wushuang also frowned. His original intention of coming here was to save Hui Qing. Although Hui Qing had a lot of secrets, he was unwilling to join in, but after all, it was a fateful friendship, which could help him on Primordial Star. I still have to help, this is not the outside world. Anyway, there is no emperor. Chapter 52-22. Now that he has advanced rank 9, under the emperor, there are really not many that can kill him, at least on this primitive star, he has enough life-saving ability, even Dao Jun can hardly kill him. Now that Hui Qing is being fought with Wu Dao Jun, Jian Wushuang will naturally stand up to help. Everyone 5-1, is it too bullying? Jian Wushuang was very decisive, stepping forward and standing next to Hui Qing. With his hands on his chest, a powerful breath rose up, and his eyes were full of fierce aura. This move not only surprised the onlookers, but also aroused the gaze of several Taoists. The public dared to touch the mold of a few of them. The person in front of him only looked at his appearance and strength, and he was able to reach the limit. He didn't expect to dare to stand up against them. Brother Wushuang. Hui Qing looked at Jian Wushuang beside him. Although he knew that Jian Wushuang had a lot of chassis, his strength was extremely powerful. But now it is the 5th Dao Jun, and many powerhouses. Once the two are down, I'm afraid these people will swarm them. Seeing Hui Qing's worry, Jian Wushuang shrugged and said plainly, "My secrets are no less than you. You can be stronger several times a year, and I can't be much worse." He is also telling the truth, and he is not weak at all when it comes to secrets. Although Hui Qing has a secret that involves the emperor, he has dealt with the emperor since he has become an immortal. Zhen Wuiyang is strong enough. There are also many causes and effects between him and Zhen Wuiyang, and there are secrets with many emperors in the Wanggu era. In the past, the small bottles on his body were filled with the remnants of the emperor's soul. Although he disappeared in the great wilderness, no matter what said that he knew no less about the emperor than Hui Qing. Now he has stepped into the ninth rank Dayan Immortal, his strength has doubled several times, his own strength is already the limit of the Dayan Immortal. If you count the eyes of the beast and the universe, Dao Sovereign is really not afraid. It was just a few Dao monarchs who surrounded him, their legs trembled a little. Dao Jun Lingshuang, as the only female Dao Jun, is moody. Seeing Jian Wushuang dared to help at this moment, he leaked a smile and said, "You are more interesting than a demon monk, I will meet you." Jian Wushuang could see at a glance that she was the Lingshuang Dao Jun among the 5 great Dao masters. "Brother Wushuang, you can help me by the side, leave it to me." Hui Qing stepped out and faced Taoist Lingshuang. Jian Wushuang shook his head and said with a sad expression, "Lingshuang Dao Jun, her name is very similar to an old friend of mine, let me come. Cold frost, cold without frost. There are countless worlds separated by one word." Jian Wushuang let go of his hands, and a divine sword appeared in his hands. Sword intent is full of the world. This is the sword fairy. Since he comprehended the Ju Xian formation, Jian Wushuang had a new understanding of the word Ju. How to become immortals endlessly. The breath was reversed, and the eye of the beast also exploded with unprecedented power at this moment. Jian Wushuang's divine body instantly soared to more than 6,000 times, and directed towards Lord Lingshuang. Seeing this, Hui Qing could only stop other Taoists. "Don't worry, I'm only interested in you." As soon as Po Jin's voice fell, an épée appeared in his hand, and the inscription above was shining with golden light, exploding with endless power, which is obviously the best in the innate treasure. Hui Qing's long stick was used as a spear and pierced directly. The other 3 Dao monarchs retreated one after another, and the Blood Moon Dao monarch looked at the fight with great interest, and he was not in a hurry. They all knew that it was impossible to the inheritance of Hui Qing, but they were not convinced. What to do then? They could only fight one game. They wanted to see what Hui Qing had in the end, so that Qishan Temple could send an inheritance specifically for him. The Emperor Wanxing Tian and Dao Shaotian were also standing aside. They came from great powers and had a lot of knowledge. This time they came to see Hui Qing's strength, not jealous, but to see how the eyes of the Qishan Temple are. Both of them are emperor sons, they are the palanquin of a big power, and they don't even bother to be jealous of others' inheritance. The powerful fluctuations made the two of them flutter, but they couldn't shake their figures. Although some Dayan immortals in the periphery were far away, the ones with poor strength were not even a star or a half away, and they were all dissipated by this qi wave. This made the peaks of De Yenxian couldn't help but breathe in a cold breath, and sighed secretly, "Is this the battle of Taoist monarchs? It's too scary. If they get closer, they won't even be able to resist the aftermath." This is the difference in origin. They are all 9 ranks consummation, but some people can compare with the Emperor with Dayan Immortal. Top, peak, extreme, Taoist, half-step Emperor. This also corresponds to the 5 different origin avenues. Everything was chosen by themselves, and now they can't blame anyone. The battle of such a strong man is terrible. Someone held their breath, staring at the core of the battle. 2 Dao monarchs fight against 2 newly promoted powerhouses. One of them is a demon monk who has the strength of the ultimate Dayan Immortal, but now he has Dao monarch combat power. The other one of them doesn't know who it is, but with their breath, they can tell that they are at least half-walking monarch, Otherwise it is impossible to fight against Lingshuang Taoist. This person is Jian Wushuang. I remember he. A Dafeng Dian immortal struggled to resist the impact of the air wave. Jian Wushuang? Everyone was puzzled. They had never heard of this name. After all, many Dian immortals entered the temple of Qishan before they had time to watch the cosmos gods and demons list. The familiar powerhouse was also the powerhouse that this primitive star ranked first. There is absolutely nothing wrong with him. He is Jian Wushuang, and he and the demon monk are both in the Buddha realm. I have seen him in Qishui Hall. Everyone was shocked. Both of them belonged to the world of Tongtian Buddhism. There were two Taoist masters in one world, and the name Tongtian Buddhism was not a high world, but just a middle world. There are only 100 higher worlds in the primitive universe, and the entire universe is still mostly in the middle world. Most of the names of the higher worlds are known to them by Dian immortals, but it was the first time they heard the name of the Tongtian Buddha realm, and they naturally assumed it was the middle world. Suddenly 2 Taoist masters emerged. This world can never be an inferior world. Boom! The roar kept coming out. Jian Wushuang's ears buzzed. Fortunately, the innate treasure armor on his body can be superimposed and weakened, otherwise the battle fluctuations between Huiqing and Pejuan alone could injure him. The strength is still a bit weak. Jian Wushuang secretly said in his heart. Heart sword test. Slash out with one sword, and the huge sword shadow is full of heart power. This sword is the core sword move of the 6th level of Ultimate Sword. Now Jian Wushuang's heart power and kendo are much stronger. It is not comparable to Moron, especially it is that he has achieved rank 9 now, and his strength has changed qualitatively. In the sky, hundreds of millions of years of cultivation have been completely transformed, and breakthroughs in the future will not be so easy. Chapter 52-23 Remembrance. 1,000 years passed, and he entered the realm of Grand Yen Immortal. Following his master, Elder Sanshou, he ventured into ancient ruins, carving out a great reputation, becoming a prince, with the prospect of ascending to the emperor position in the future. During that time, Wuliang Buddha, who had long attained enlightenment, noticed him. There was a subtle karmic connection between the two. Dao Lord Tianji had also visited Wuliang Buddha, seeking guidance on the cycle of cause and effect, life and death. From Wuliang Buddha, he learned that to become an emperor, one had to search for fragments of human origin source of the heavenly realm. Though humans were weak, they still possessed their own fragments of origin source, albeit only considered as destiny shards, far from reaching the level of true origin source. However, with a sufficient number of humans, they still constituted a part of the world's origin source. With this understanding, Tianji became even more obsessed. To become the strongest emperor, he pushed the great Tao to its extreme, eventually mastering the ultimate Tao. Later, under the recommendation of Elder Sanshou, he became a direct disciple of Emperor Dongyan, dedicating himself to cultivation solely for the sake of achieving the ultimate Tao. The ultimate emperor. Since ancient times, only one person had succeeded in this endeavor. But Tianji paid no heed to such constraints. He was determined to achieve it even if no one else had. Dongyan saw his disciple's determination and understood that Wuliang Buddha had played a trick. However, the scars in his disciple's heart could only be healed by himself. No one else could help him. With lingering wounds in his heart and an incomplete state of mind, mastering the ultimate Tao, especially the Tao merging, was exceptionally difficult. Among the billions of cultivators, only a single person could possibly succeed. Even though Tianji possessed extraordinary talent that amazed the world, in the end, he too failed to achieve Tao unity. He fell before Emperor Dongyan. Before attempting to merge the Tao, he had visited the Valley of Rebirth, which remained unchanged. Under his protection, the valley appeared just as it did 10,000 years ago, with Red Girl's tombstone standing in its place, untouched by time. He still wore his Taoist robe, albeit with a few more traces of wind and frost. Looking at the tombstone, Dongyan had once advised him to forget. But he didn't know how to forget, nor did he dare to. This was the driving force behind his desperate cultivation. If he forgot, he might as well have stayed honestly in the Taoist temple, growing old in solitude. On the day before he merged with the Tao, he made a promise when he left this canyon. "I won't let you wait too long. If you can't find me, I will come down to find." His confidence in merging with the Tao was never high. His eventual demise was not unexpected. However, when he fell, there was a smile on his face, and a tear lingered in the corner of his eye as he looked up at the sky. "You found me after all." Memories flooded back. Scenes flashed before his eyes, and the Tianji smiled faintly, as if from ancient times, willingly embracing death, erasing everything. "Virtuous." Hu Qing clasped his hands together, and everything before him turned into ashes. In the midst of Hu Qing's reluctant roar, the red-robed Hu Qing completely disappeared from his heart. Now, his Tao heart was the only one, calm as still water. At this moment, he was the only one, and there was no more Tianji in the world. "Reincarnation," Hu Qing silently recited, a smile appearing on his lips. The aura enveloping the origin source rotated repeatedly, just like the countless glances in his previous life. What did it matter if there were countless cycles? Buzz. The origin source trembled, and that aura had nowhere to escape. It was suppressed by Hu Qing's ultimate origin source and eventually turned into a breath. This breath had been accumulating in Hu Qing's heart for 30 million years, and now it finally dissipated completely. In the sea of origin source, true spirit danced with joy, praising, "This child can truly achieve the ultimate emperor." "This is my achievement," he sneered. "Those fools dared to question me breaking the rules. Damn rules are meant to be shattered by the strong. Clinging to regulations blindly will only lead to downfall." True spirit was right. The rules of the Qishan were once strict, and the god's dominance cast a shadow over the entire galaxy, establishing a reign that dominated numerous streams of time and space. But in the end, it was all ephemeral. Ultimacy is just the beginning, young one. Keep striving. The Feather Continent. At this moment, Hu Qing had fully mastered the reincarnation inheritance. He took a deep breath, expelling all the impurities. Now, he truly transcended. As the inheritance concluded, the outer barrier dissipated. A group of strong beings lay in wait, observing intently. With the disappearance of the barrier, a great battle was imminent. Tao Lord Wanxing exuded an overwhelmingly domineering aura, dispersing the numerous Grand Yen immortals around him. Monster Monk, Hu Qing? Other Tao Lords also approached. On Tao Lord Shuiyu's mountain, a crimson hue swirled around, signifying the countless strong individuals who had perished at his hands. Many Grand Yen immortals had begun to retreat. Now, only the top-level Grand Yen immortals and some half-step Tao Lords remained. "It's truly spectacular, so many strong individuals." Jian Wushuang marveled from his hiding spot in the crowd, having just arrived not long ago. When he emerged from seclusion, he was surprised. Why, after a year had passed, had his ranking not changed at all? Many other strong individuals' rankings remained unchanged too. He thought they had all become more docile, avoiding conflicts. Who would have thought they would all gather here to witness Hu Qing, this young man, accepting the inheritance? It was strange that these people could hold back for a whole year without taking action. Even if they did want to act, they had to leave the Feather Transformation Continent. Those were the rules set by the Tao Lords. Now the continent was nearly empty. Only here did tens of thousands of Grand Yen immortals gather. All other Grand Yen immortals had left the continent. Now, the protagonist on this continent was Hu Qing. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, he became the first Grand Yen immortal to accept the inheritance of the Qishan Temple. In front of everyone, he accepted the treasure of the inheritance. A silver-colored staff. Named Samsara. Hu Qing glanced at the crowd and was somewhat surprised when he saw those Tao Lords. His strength had undergone a qualitative change. Although he hadn't reached the perfected 9 revolutions, his ultimate Tao had reached the 7th level. This was the peak of his past life but not the endpoint of this life. Looking at everyone, he just nodded. 5 Tao Lords, dozens of half-step Tao Lords, top-level Grand Yen immortals, and thousands of peak-level Grand Yen immortals on the periphery. This formation indicated that there would likely be a great battle today. To make the Qishan temple voluntarily bestow the inheritance, you must be strong. But I'm not convinced, spoke the second-ranked Po Jun. His true strength also ranked in the top 3, but he was not a prince within a major power. His title as a Tao Lord was only in the original planet. Hu Qing smiled faintly, the staff slanted. It was self-evident. If they wanted to fight, then they would fight. Ha, good. Tao Lord Wanxing applauded. Monk, we won't make it difficult for you. If you can defeat each of us one by one, you can leave. As Tao Lord Wanxing spoke, the onlookers gasped in shock. The 5 Tao Lords were actually planning a round-robin battle. Moreover, from Tao Lord Wanxing's tone, if Hu Qing couldn't defeat each of them, he probably wouldn't leave here today. Jian Wushuang furrowed his brows. He had come here with the intention of saving Hu Qing. Although Hu Qing had many secrets, he didn't want to get involved. Nevertheless, it was a matter of life and death friendship. If he could help him on the original planet, he would do it. After all, there were no emperors here anyway. Chapter 52-24. This secret method not only increased his divine body to tens of thousands of times, but even his power of growth was transformed into the power of reincarnation due to the practice of reincarnation. This is a breath tens of thousands of times stronger than Yanli. The silver long stick collided with the sharp broken solid, making a roar, which was even more shocking than the fight between the two. This roar made the frost and snow world unstable, and the ice crystal phoenix screamed from the sky. Jian Wushuang also took the opportunity to pull away, and a strand of shadow sword appeared in his palm, and suddenly threw it out, approaching the ice crystal phoenix. Dao Jun Lengshuang's brows condensed, and it turned out that although Ice Crystal Phoenix had a Taoist level in combat power, her intelligence was too low. Although she controlled it secretly, she could not fully control it. If you can completely control the Ice Crystal Phoenix, it would be too abnormal. When participating in the melee, 1 Dao Jun suddenly became 2 Dao Jun. This is a double change in quality and quantity. The wisp of the phantom sword made Dao Jun Lengshuang feel uncomfortable, feeling that the aura in it was too terrifying, and quickly recalled the Ice Crystal Phoenix, but it was too late. On Hui Qing's side, the more and more fierce the war, he gradually pressed Pejuan to fight. The original fierce attack on Pejuan had to defend, but the slow defense couldn't stop Hui Qing, until he really hit a stick before he suddenly fought. But the stick hit his waist, and a twitching abdomen instantly reached his chest. He sucked in a cold breath and suppressed the blood in his chest, but the divine body had to change his figure to an ordinary size because the stick began to break down. Just a stick broke his defense, causing a lot of loss to the divine body. There was a chill on his back and a cold sweat broke out. How can it be so strong? But without waiting for him to think, the long stick attacked again, still a fierce attack, and he had to defend. A stick. 2 sticks, 10 sticks, 100 sticks, 1,000 sticks, 10,000 sticks, 1,000,000 sticks. More fierce and stronger than ever. The broken army was about to collapse, and he could no longer fight, so he could only retreat. Jian Wushuang's form has also changed. As soon as the phantom sword came out, it sneaked on the Ice Crystal Phoenix, which not only gave him a chance to breathe, but also gained the upper hand. Although there is no blessing from the universe, the current phantom sword is not what it used to be. With just 1 sword, the Ice Crystal Phoenix was cut down and wounded. Although Dao Sovereign's combat power, the Ice Crystal Phoenix's defense was very fragile. A sword broke through its ice blade and directly inserted it into its body. Taoist Lengshuang didn't care at first. The Ice Crystal Phoenix was just a summoning object. Even if it was attacked by a sneak attack, it wouldn't hurt to get a little bit injured. But what she didn't expect was that since the Ice Crystal Phoenix received that sword, the essence contained in her body began to shed. This was the first time she encountered this kind of thing, and she didn't know how to deal with it for a while, so she could only attack Jian Wushuang desperately. The Tao contained in the Ice Crystal Phoenix is her Tao, and the two are originally one. Ha, I know it hurts now. Jian Wushuang's figure is like a ghost, and he hasn't paid attention to the Dao Jun who was running away. Feeling that it was not right to deal with the breath, Jian Wushuang's figure instantly changed, knowing that Dao Jun Lengshuang was going to work hard. That was the source, How many years of hard work was swallowed by him? No one would have to work hard. Jian Wushuang felt that the form was wrong, his breath reversed and exited the entire ice and snow world, not fighting head-on with Daojun Lingshuang. Jian Wushuang. Taoist Lingshuang roared unwillingly. In the end, she had to risk being bitten back and forcibly recover the ice crystal phoenix, but her origin was also lost a lot, and the loss was comparable to the complete origin of some peak Dian immortals. After Jian Wushuang succeeded, standing in the distance, Xing Mao remained unchanged. Why, we must continue to fight. Facing Jian Wushuang's sarcasm, Lord Lingshuang's face paled. If fighting head-on, Jian Wushuang would definitely not be her opponent, but the wisp of phantom sword was too weird, and the evil aura contained in it made her a little shocked. But without Ice Crystal Phoenix, one-on-one, she really couldn't do anything with Jian Wushuang. When the audience saw this, they were extremely shocked, and at the same time they secretly recorded Jian Wushuang. Although this person had no positive strength at the level of the Taoist, the threat was even more terrifying than the Taoist. The Lingshuang Daojun that could drive him mad, and even hurt Daojun, this kind of character is no longer something they can provoke. In the future, pay attention to this Jian Wushuang. His true strength should not reach the level of the prince, but this person's methods are too weird, more threatening than the prince. A half-step prince looked jealous. Watching after this battle, he had a new understanding of Daojun. If he faced the Lingshuang Daojun and the Ice Crystal Phoenix, or was in the Frost Snow world, he would definitely fall, let alone crack it. He would not even be able to resist. That's the power of the two Taoist monarchs. Neither one of them was an opponent, let alone two besieged together. Look, Pejuan can't hold on anymore. Everyone just took a breath from Jian Wushuang's side, and once again looked at Huiqing and Pejuan with trepidation. Jian Wushuang was playing with the phantom sword in his hand in the distance, and was not going to take care of the injured Lingshuang Daojun. Knowing that she was also a wise man, the two of them could do nothing, and it would be boring to fight. Although he can threaten Daojun Lingshuang, he is really going to take the initiative when he is a second hand. If the phantom sword encounters Daojun Lingshuang, she will be more careful. Moreover, there is really no need for the two of them to fight to death, but there are still two Dao monarchs staring at him. The strongest Dao monarch Wanqing and the most ruthless Blood Moon have yet to do anything. If you really want to fight to the death, it's cheaper than others. However, if he really wants to fight to death, Jian Wushuang is also confident. Once the universe is formed, his strength can be doubled. When superimposed with the Eye of the Beast God, his combat power will soar to the level of Dao Sovereign. Lingshuang Daojun left. Of course, all of this is without interference from outsiders. If Lingshuang Daojun still has a whole card, or other Daojun intervenes, then he is not very sure. Now that he put away the power of the Beast God's eye, his breath shrank, and he began to watch Huiqing's fight. Daojun Lingshuang changed her breath and began to restore the strength she had consumed. As for the lost origin, she would really be unable to make up for it for a while, but fortunately, the loss was not too much, and it had little effect on her strength. In this battle, she didn't get any benefits. Instead, Jian Wushuang stepped on her fame and transformed the continent, which made her remember this shame, and sooner or later she would get it back from Jian Wushuang. But thinking of the swallowing power, her eyes shrank. If it weren't in the Temple of Qixin, she would definitely ask the Emperor, what kind of method was this? It was too weird. On the other side, Huiqing is even more weird than Jian Wushuang. The power of reincarnation was so powerful that Dao Sovereign Wanqing was moved. The battle between Jian Wushuang and Daojun Lingshuang, he hasn't paid attention to it, it's just a few sideways. If he confronts Lingshuang, the Ice Crystal Phoenix will not threaten him at all, and he will even break with a punch the Ice Crystal Phoenix. Chapter 52-25. Huiqing's side is different, it's really powerful, it's an absolute Dao Sovereign combat power, and it's still the top existence among Dao Sovereign. With strong combat power and the suffocating stick technique, Huiqing's suppression power against Daojun is terrible. The crowd onlookers only saw the magnificent moves of Jian Wushuang and Daojun Lingshuang, the world of Heart Sword and the world of Frost, and the Ice Crystal Phoenix of Daojun level. Although these methods are magnificent, It is always personal strength that Dao Jun really values. Only strong personal strength can make people convinced. Just like Hui Qing now, one person, one stick, there are no fancy and gorgeous moves, but every stick of his can injure Dao Jun. The stick method is completely self-contained, and every move and try seems ordinary, but there is something in it. Power, but it is extremely magnificent. This is the power of inheritance reincarnation. Hui Qing erased her heart's misfortune, completely cut off her previous life, reached the realm where the heart is like still water, and her strength has improved by leaps and bounds. But these are not as powerful as reincarnation. The true spirit is worthy of being the true spirit of the Qishan temple, and the inheritance of reincarnation is really suitable for Hui Qing. At this 9th revolution, he pressed Dao Jun to fight. Jian Wushuang stood on the spot, and was a little shocked by Hui Qing's strength. He is 4, Hui Qing 6. Even with the strongest means, absolute immortal formation, Jian Wushuang would not be able to consume the power of death and transform into the power of reincarnation Hui Qing. As for devouring the source, Hui Qing has the innate treasure, and also has the innate treasure suit, Zhen Yulo, in its secrecy ability. On this primordial star, no one can threaten Hui Qing again. Jian Wushuang had no jealousy in his heart. Although he lost the inheritance, he was not discouraged at all. In the future, who is strong and who is weak may still be weak. Although it can be seen that Hui Qing's breath has changed drastically at this time, I am afraid that the heart catastrophe has passed. It seems that it has passed. However, under the eyes of his beast god, Hui Qing still had 2 thick causal lines on his body, and he could only see one of these 2 lines clearly. It's related to the emperor? Jian Wushuang raised his brows and then sneered. This is the temple of Qishan, and it doesn't matter when you go out, even if it is related to the emperor, it is after the temple of Qishan. The emperor who can threaten Hui Qing. Jian Wushuang's mind turned, and he really couldn't guess who it was. It would never be the emperor who was jealous that Hui Qing got the chance in the temple of Qishan, so let's kill him. Don't say it, it's very possible. If you look at the current broken army, you will know that there are some people among the emperors who stay in the 2nd class for their entire lives and cannot break through. They are also extremely jealous of those shocking arrogances, and they can enter the 4th or even the 5th step after becoming the emperor. But they didn't dare to show it in front of those strong men. They could only vent their anger with Dayan immortals. Hui Qing is a person from the world of Tongtian Buddhism and a novice monk on Mount Luoyang. He is considered to be an emperor's lineage. Although he is not a master or apprentice, he is practicing in the monarch's Taoist temple. Trouble with Hui Qing? Jian Wushuang couldn't figure it out, so he didn't think about it. As for the 2nd line of cause and effect, he couldn't understand it. These are the side effects brought about by the evildoer itself. No one who is strong will have a lifeless life, and the road of the strong is not so easy. The real Wuyang in the Great Division region has walked on how many corpses of emperors to reach this point? Although the Tongtian Buddha has inherited the broken heavens, is it really because of a broken higher world that the Tongtian Buddha is so powerful? Although Jian Wushuang didn't know the battle power of the emperor, he also knew that the Great Siu was only a middle world, and the real Wuyang who could control the middle world was not weaker than the masters of those higher worlds. There is a gap between the origin and the treasure, but it is more because the path chosen is different. Road to the strong. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists. He still doesn't know where his road to the strong is? The pressure of Ji Dao kept him out of breath. Now Ji Dao is only on the 4th level, and the progress is too slow. Although the ultimate way has broken through one after another, it can only be worthy of the 6th level. Mind power is only at the 4th level, and he has no confidence in mind power, and he doesn't know when he can break through. In general, the powerhouse of the 2nd stage avenue, in Dayan Immortal, the 9th level of consummation is the highest level of Taoism, which forms the effect of double consummation with the 9th revolution. At least many 4th-order emperors took this path. Lengshuang Daojun, Pejuan, and other Daojun also walked this way. The entire primitive universe can embark on this road. There are only 1,000 people, but it is possible that all of them can go ashore at the end. It is really their greatest luck to be able to appear in the temple of Qishan in this era, and it may be possible to get out of the seedlings of several or even dozens of fourth-order emperors. For now, they haven't seen Dian Immortal's shortcut to become the emperor, and they still don't have the answer to the secrets of Dasiyu Wang's ancient times. The only surviving Lu Crow did not mention it. Those emperors were also lazy to ask, they were more concerned about it, not something that the Dian Immortals like Jian Wushuang could match. The road of the ultimate path is the most special. It cannot be regarded as the road of the strong, but a dark road. If other fourth-order emperors come ashore, there will be a dazzling sun on the road of the strong. Then there is only a dim oil lamp on the road to the ultimate way. I give you a ray of light, but I can't illuminate the path under your feet. Countless times have passed, and the gleam of light is still there, but no passerby was seen. Lonely, dark, and helpless. This is the ultimate way. Jian Wushuang's breathing was a little trembling, and he sighed, "Where is Ji Dao? Luna? No way." The more I think about it, the more afraid he becomes. He didn't want to come to the temple of Qishan at the beginning, but now he is glad to have entered. This is also thanks to Zhen Weiyang. He will not be sent to the frontier, nor will he enter this temple of the gods, and he still has a premonition in his heart that he feels that the temple of the gods is opened by him. Although a little self-confident, it is really possible. The Temple of Qishan, as a legacy left by the ancient mighty man, might be able to find out information about the Ji Dao from it, so that he doesn't have to walk forward in the dark. He is now afraid that he will find a fork in the middle of the walk, and will not be able to turn back. Jian Wushuang's goal of becoming a strong man has never changed. No matter who he used to do, now he only wants to live for himself once. For myself, for strength, for eternity, bright in the infinite starry sky. Daojun blood moon in the distance moved slightly. Although a bit of thought has been thinking about other things, but Jian Wushuang is so powerful that he has just left, and he saw that his figure was immediately blocked in front of him. Blood moon, you'd better not do it. Jian Wushuang said coldly. This is not a threat, but he has a strong confidence. The battle with Lung Shuang just now gave him an understanding of his own strength, and now Dao Jun is no more than that. Chapter 52-26. If it was the Wanxing Dao Jun, he might still be jealous, but the Blood Moon Dao Jun really didn't take it seriously. Although he ranks first in this primitive star, his methods are also the most transparent, and he has a set of methods to deal with the weak, and those methods that meet him of the same rank are not easy to use. Jian Wushuang, right? Shuiyue Dao Jun was not angry, but looked at Jian Wushuang with a faint smile, and then said, "Your strength is really interesting. If you think him the same as that stupid Lung Shuang, then you are miscalculating." As soon as the voice fell, the blood moon condensed, and the heaven and the earth lost its color. Before Jian Wushuang had time to do it, the Wanxing Dao Jun blasted out with a punch, directly breaking the blood moon. One-on-one, that's one-on-one, no one is allowed to intervene. I said, you can't change it. Wanxing Daojun's breath rises, extremely domineering, and constant pressure on everyone. This domineering let everyone take a breath. Everyone in his presence was familiar with that momentum. They were all pinnacles, and in their respective worlds, they were also pinnacle powerhouses other than the Emperor. The Emperor is no stranger to them, but the momentum exuded by the 10,000 stars just reminds them of the powerful Emperor. How is it possible? The Blood Moon was also very surprised. He didn't expect Wanxing to be so strong, and he broke his unique knowledge with one move. In the same rank, although he is not the top, he is not the bottom one. Jian Wushuang, who just wanted to do it, was also taken aback. It was too strong. The punch just now looked ordinary, but it was so powerful that it made people tremble. Wanxing. Daojun Lengshuang's eyes also showed horror. Originally everyone was about the same strength. Even if they were strong, they would be stronger. Now Wanxing suddenly broke out, piercing the Blood Moon's magical powers with one punch. The pinnacle powerhouse on the outside was also shocked at this time. That domineering aura was too strong, and it could be clearly felt from such a distance. With this breath, is Wanxing a half-step emperor? Someone asked in doubt. They were very familiar with that breath. It was impossible for them to admit their mistakes, It definitely had a little power of the emperor. Oomph, you country bumpkins know what a fart. The speaker was one of the 10 emperors of the Dao Luo realm. It is also the only Dayan immortal in the Great Luo realm on the emerging continent. Wanxing Daojun, born in the Star Luo realm, and the Luo realm are considered to be the same power. He knows more, and he began to brag. Brother Wanxing, but he has cultivated our De Luotian's supreme knack, and his strength can be comparable to those perfect ultimate Dayan immortals. What a half-step emperor! Supreme unique? Everyone took another breath. That is the unique knowledge that emperors are qualified to practice. This kind of faculty is generally not taught to Dayan immortals, because they can't cultivate either unless it is a great way of origin that fits very well with them, or the inheritance of faculty is related to themselves. Just like Hui Qing, the inheritance of reincarnation fits him very well, and it will be considered as a complete acceptance in the end. Ordinary people want to practice fascinating learning, and the difficulty is no less than that of harmony. There are still some great supernatural powers suitable for Dayan immortal. Admire. Cultivating the emperor's unique learning, no wonder it is so powerful. It can be comparable to the half-step emperor, and the combat power is close to the ultimate existence. If the harmony is successful, I am afraid that the primitive universe will have another fifth-order existence. A half-walking monarch slowly said that he is also the proud son of a certain big world, and he knows a lot about the emperor. In countless eras, there are evildoers who can truly illuminate an entire era. Anyone who has cultivated the emperor's unique knowledge not in Dayanxian, and finally succeeded in joining the Tao, just entered the emperor is the fourth-order combat power. After entering the long river of time and space, after hundreds of millions of years, he broke through to the level of the fifth-order emperor. Everyone admires it very much. After all, it is comparable to the ultimate existence. Jian Wushuang was also extremely shocked. Wan Xing's strength surpassed his cognition, and besides the emperor, this was the strongest Dayan immortal he had encountered. One punch can break Daijin's magical powers. Even if he used his full strength, he didn't have the confidence to fight against the Wanxing Daojun. Fortunately, there is the arrogance that the strong have, that is the arithmetic of speech. 1 to 1 is 1 to 1. Now Hui Qing will be able to defeat Pejuan immediately if she is against tens of thousands of stars later. Jian Wushuang had already retreated somewhat. He didn't know that in the sea of origin of the Qishan temple, the real spirit with the fluttering flesh beard looked very comfortable. This little bald head is really good. Zhenling looked at the powerful Hui Qing in the sky with satisfaction. Although it was just a good sentence, the true spirit is the master of the entire Qishan temple, and now there are countless powerful people in the Qishan temple. There are also tens of thousands of emperors, to be precise, tens of thousands of emperors and powerful men. Hui Qing is the only one who can evaluate him. Well, this piece of uncut jade is considered to be on the Tao after this tribulation. You can't be anxious to come one by one. Last time, the Yanxian died, and you have to adjust it slowly. Zhenling muttered to himself. Countless strong men are nothing but ants in his eyes. They are all stones that need to be polished. If it is jade, polish it well, and throw it aside if it is a stone. Seeing Jian Wushuang's true spirit from the sky, frowned. How come this little thing is not dead? According to his layout, Jian Wushuang should have been killed by Dao Jun. Damn, he escaped again. This Ling Shuang is really a waste. Just like those old bacons, a waste. Really, Aura jumped and yelled. The sea of origin swayed for a while, and as soon as the spirit guard came in, he heard the words Lao Bu. His face sank, and his black face drifted to the real spirit. Zhenling was also a little embarrassed. He tidied up his appearance, clenched his fist and coughed, then calmly said, Lao Qi is here, so how is the fourth secret realm going on? Since waking up, he discovered that the world in the temple of Qishan had changed too much. The 4 domains of the year have now become 4 secret realms. There were also a lot of powerhouses born inside, too many to make it difficult for the White Tiger Palace to suppress. If it were not for the 13 spirit guards to assist the White Tiger Palace in guarding the 4 secret realms in the past few years, I am afraid that the body of the gods will have big problems. My lord, something has gone wrong over the secret realm. The guardian said truthfully. True Spirit was stunned, and came to him when something went wrong, which showed that it was beyond the scope of the Sixth Order Emperor's ability. This surprised him a little. The natives in the Chishan Temple cannot achieve the top of the universe. Although the Sea of Origin is stronger than the origin of some universes, these are not innate. How exactly? Zenling's face also became serious. It's the forest of 10,000 treasures, the guardian replied. Zhenling's eyes shrank, and this was the first time he got serious after he recovered. Go and see. The guardians were not surprised at this. The forest of 10,000 treasures was a place that the old master cared very much about. When the secret realm was built, the of the gods moved some places that were once reluctant to move into the secret realm of the Temple of the Gods. Chapter 5227. 3Q Chinese website, the fastest update of Wandao Jianzuan. Primitive realm, whether it was Dian Immortal or Emperor, was moving forward for their own powerful path, and did not know that a massacre occurred in another place in the Chishan Temple. On Moyin Mountain, Immeasurable Buddha is still ahead of all Third Order Emperors, but he has not surpassed any Fourth Order Emperor. Whenever he hurried to catch up with the Fourth Order Emperor, he stopped practicing, and after the opponent walked far away, he walked again. Others didn't care about this move, but the Buddha who walked in front had a panoramic view. The two have been fighting for so many years, but he knows Wuliang very well. Be careful, cautious, and vicious. This is the label the two of them gave each other. Although his strength is far beyond boundless, he has been wary of this fellow student over the years. Both are from Buddhism, but Tao is different. He inherited the world of Tongtian, but Wuliang inherited the Bodhi tree. The Bodhi tree is the supreme sacred object of the mind power practitioners. The entire primitive universe has found the second one. Although he does not cultivate mind power, he is also greedy. But that tree on Mount Wuliang, just like growing in the heart of Wuliang Buddha, it was too difficult for him to fight. If you take it forcibly, you may not get anything in the end, but it will ruin his reputation in Buddhism. He is the master of the heavenly Buddha, but there are still many people who are older than him in Buddhism, but the strength is great, and he can inherit the heavenly realm. Squinting and looking down the mountain, Tongtian Buddha turned his head and leaked a smiling face, continuing to pester Zhen Wuliang. Brother Gu, slow down. Tongtian Buddha quickly took a step to keep up with Zhen Wuliang. Zhen Wuliang, who was walking in front, was extremely annoyed when he heard this. Tongan, don't go too far, Emperor Zhenwu, not a tortoise. Good. Brother Turtle and Snake, if you don't tell me your name, title is too good. Tongtian Buddha said with an innocent look. Tongtian Buddha was called Mengcha when he was mundane. In order to get close to Zhen Wuliang, he told Zhen Wuliang all his milk names, but Zhen Wuliang didn't want to say anything. This made Tongtian Buddha feel at a loss, and has been entangled with Zhen Wuliang. In front of the two of them is the first echelon on Moyin Mountain today, the leaders of the peak forces of Wind and Rain Demon Lord. Mountainside, we will be here soon. The struggling walker secretly determined that he would correct it as soon as he reached the mountainside. The remaining Fourth Order Peak Emperors were also secretly competing, and no one was willing to stop. They didn't know that on the mountainside, there were a group of ghostly ghosts waiting for a meal. In the outer world, the trial of evolving immortals is also in full swing. However, in the world of Yangxian's trial, the flow of time is 1,000,000 times slower than that of the primitive world. Now Yangxian has been trialing for thousands of years. From the beginning of the trial of Xuanwu Temple, after screening out a large number of talented immortals, they began a series of training. Unlike many big forces, they did not use resources to train the strong. It's the cultivation of Gu test, even the inheritance is a 2-to-2 competition. One round of training seems to be not very competitive, but in fact, half of them are screened every time. After tens of thousands of years, these immortals have also been divided into several batches. Inside the Xuanwu Hall, Devil Lord, Jiazi camp is full. In the Xuanwu Hall, the one sitting at the highest point was not the puppet Xuani, but a taboo demon lord. If this is seen by others, it is absolutely shocking, especially if the true spirit is so jealous of the forbidden demon master who swallows the avenue. Why would he become a respected demon master in the Xuanwu Hall? Well, you can start the B character camp. The black-robed demon's eyes drooped, playing with a small puppet in his hand. Yes, the visitor said respectfully. Without waiting for him to walk out, the taboo demon lord continued. By the way, those selected evangelists will be sent to the 7th world to help create emperor puppets. Recently, the 4 secret realms are not peaceful, so we have to help set it off. The visitor was stunned for a moment, then nodded and said yes. From beginning to end, the black-robed demon lord did not look up to look at people, still staring at the gadgets in his hands to tinker. Well, almost. His technique was extremely fast, turning the objects in his hand constantly, and he installed small parts, and finally formed a small object in the shape of a ball. Outside the Xuanwu Hall, a touch of scarlet flashed across, and a young woman in a red armor slowly walked in. After scanning around, she looked at the forbidden demon lord sitting above. What about the tortoise? Why is he not here? Isn't this your newly built nest? He won't come here to sit here? The visitor was Zhu Yi from the Vermilion Bird Palace. The black-robed demon master squeezed the small ball that had been formed in his hand, finally pulled his eyes away and looked at Zhu. Turtle snake. As soon as the word turtle snake was uttered, the black-robed demon lord coughed and quickly changed his words. Brother Xian Yi went to the 3rd world to refine a 1,000-handed centipede. Well, that's right, the Temple of Qixin is now open, and there are not many good days in the future. It is necessary to hurry up and prepare for vitality. Zhu nodded a little, a sadness in his eyes. The black-robed demon lord stood up and said politely, I heard Brother Xuani say about you, Hall Master Zhu. This is the key. He said and handed out the small ball in his hand. Thank you very much. If it wasn't for the old man Jinling, I wouldn't have to ask you to borrow treasures. Zhu Yi said helplessly. Hearing the word true spirit, the black-robed demon master shuddered. His expression changed with extreme respect and said, the matter of Lord True Spirit, his subordinates will naturally go all out. Okay, he can't hear it again. What flattery you do, even if he wakes up, he won't deal with you. You are the baby bump of the tortoise and snake. The puppets of the 10 worlds need you to refine, even for the old puppet True Spirit won't deal with you either. Zhu Yi waved her hand, and she was also a little amused when she saw such a timid taboo demon lord. In her primitive world, there is also a forbidden demon master imprisoned, all of which was transformed by the great swallowing Tao, so the gap is so big. If the taboo demon lord had this kind of personality, it would be great. The Vermilion Bird Palace would also have a Tier 6 combat power. Okay, I'm leaving. Zhu Yi tossed the ball in his hand, very satisfied. Hall Master Zhu, go slowly. The black-robed demon master stood up to send him off. It wasn't until Zhu Yi's figure disappeared that he let out a sigh of relief. After a while, he returned to the throne again and began to study puppet drawings. After Zhu Yi got what he wanted, he tore the space back to the primitive world. The void was torn apart, and Zhu Yi, wearing a scarlet armor, appeared on the top of Moyne Mountain. The key she had just obtained was the key to opening the Moyne Mountain. When she fell down and saw the sparse figures on the mountain, she remembered that there are a group of emperors. Zhu Yi's figure is very fast, just a few flashes and he went directly to the top of Moyne Mountain. Chapter 52-28. There was silence on the sloping path. Zhu Yi's figure is like a ghost, with his feet untouched for just 3 breaths, and he walked directly on the Wanzhong Mountain Road and was at the top of the mountain. The other emperors on the mountain road, no matter how slow they were, felt the scarlet figures flashing in the gust of wind. On Wanzhong Mountain Road, these emperors have been walking for almost half a year, and none of them have reached the mountainside. Now suddenly there was someone who could climb to the top at will. They didn't even see the other's face clearly. Emperor? Or the messenger in the Temple of Qixin? Although the strength of the indigenous people is also strong, haven't they said that they can't break the boundary? How come a super strong man suddenly appeared? Many powerhouses, Their faces are ashen. Isn't this inheritance said to be good for them to compete for? How come a person suddenly appeared and directly boarded the top of the mountain? Wu Yang had just taken 2,000 battles, standing in place with a black face. He has a bodhicitta tree, and there is no pressure to walk on this path. He has been planning to hide his strength and gradually improve, but now he has been swiftly ascended first. What's the matter? Zhu Yi, who climbed to the top of the mountain, looked back. The emperor below the mountain has a low view. Black demon, Zhu Yi said lightly. She still doesn't care about those emperors. There are not many who can become tier 5, and it's not enough to be cannon fodder for her, but she looks carefully at the clone of the demon master. The taboo demon lord, who was tied to the top of the mountain, broke free from the chains, gritted his teeth and stared. Zhu Yuet? Snapped. Clang banged her. A pale golden thunder spread along the chain, and a dazzling electric light broke through the tough teeth of the black devil. No matter how rude, I will come over to torture you once a year. Zhu Yi moved his wrist and looked at the restrained forbidden demon lord with unkind eyes. The black demon with broken teeth snorted, "Betrayer!" As a part of the gods, the demon masters transformed into the Tao of devouring each claim to be gods, and they are extremely arrogant. The one in Xuangwu Temple is an exception. The wind demon, who was once one of the 5 great demon lords, is very peaceful and not irritable at all. Zhu Yi felt strange that they were all conscious bodies that were transformed into one Tao, so there was such a big gap. Stop talking nonsense, I didn't come here to trouble you. At the top of Moyin Mountain, in addition to the pillars and chains that bound the black demon, there is also a divine clock. The bells ring around each other, and the least who can resist the magic sound at such a close distance are the peak emperors of the 5th level of heart power. However, Zhu Yi possesses the exquisite heart of 7 orifices, and this magic sound can't interfere with her. Walking to the divine clock, Zhu Yi put the ball that Feng Mo gave her into the groove on the top of the divine clock. The powerful suction made her hand a little unstable and almost was sucked in. Just letting go, the ball went into the groove and merged with the clock, making a buzzing sound, shaking Zhu Yi's hair on the top of his head. 3,000 red hairs fluttered and fluttered in the wind, across his expressionless face. The black demon backed away from the side, but he had the memory of this sacred clock, which was a treasure of the universe. It was originally damaged, but now it has been repaired. The familiar terror pressure made him shudder. A breeze on the top of the mountain caused a commotion down the mountain, and several peak emperors who had already gone out of 4,000 battles had to retreat. Let alone the rest of the emperors, they couldn't even stabilize their figure and went backwards. What happened? Could it be that the heritage of the top of the mountain was taken away? A group of strong people resisted the oncoming wind head-on, resisting hard. Zhu Yi couldn't manage so much on the mountain, and he didn't care about the life and death of the emperors under the mountain. After the divine clock was completely restored to its former power, she put it away. The ball was just a missing part of the magic clock, and this clock was the key. Now the primitive world immediately begins the trial of inheritance, which is the second stage. The first stage is to let all Dayan immortals fight against each other and eliminate the weak. Now that they are alive more or less, they have to come up with some good things to sweeten them and continue to kill. Repairing this sacred clock is to start the trial of the primitive world. This is a very important part, a rule that was set in ancient times. This is also the reason why she is dissatisfied with the advancement of the true spirit. Everything has the order of the regulations and cannot be disrupted. Although she has a 7-orifice exquisite heart, which is no different from a cultivator, it is precisely because of this that she respects the gods very much. It is not only the who gave her life, but also the irreversible master. The divine clock was completely repaired, and Zhu Yi didn't have the thought of staying here, just glanced at the dark demon coldly. As for the black demon clones, she didn't care at all, and she didn't bother to remind those emperors. It was that the black demon could summon so many clones at once, and each had tier 5 combat power, which surprised her a bit. It seems that even if his origin is suppressed by Moyin Mountain, it is constantly getting stronger. The way of swallowing is really a curse. But now is not the time to think about this. After receiving the divine clock, her figure flashed and disappeared to the top of the mountain, and when she reappeared, she went into the void of the outside world. Tore through the void at will and enter a huge treasure house in the primitive world. This time 180 primordial stars opened the inheritance, and at least 180 suitable inheritances had to be selected from tens of thousands of inheritances. In the outside world, it can be regarded as the inheritance of the unique knowledge of the town, but it is randomly placed in this cave. The line of inheritance is like a Tianzhu. Zhu Yi's mind is fast, and she has the exquisite heart of 7 orifices, and in just a few breaths, she selects 180 lines from the countless lineages. The sky pillars shrank and flew into Zhu Yi's hands. After getting the inheritance, he went to other caves and began to select treasures. It's almost done, but the rules have to be changed a lot. Zhu Yi's token flashed in his hand and retransmitted it to the Vermilion Bird Palace. At this time, in the Vermilion Bird Hall, there are still 4 Vermilion Bird envoys, each of which is a 5th-order emperor. The original intention for them to be refined was not to fight, but to manage the Temple of Qixin, but at this time they were forced to go to other universes to collect shocking talents. Good luck go to some universe with weak background, even a 5th-order emperor can't touch it. Naturally, come and go freely, and there is also a bad luck. If you encounter a 6th-order emperor, if you don't use the Big Move Road talisman, almost can't come back. Hallmaster, the shocking Hong Tianjiao in the nearby universe, has almost plundered them, and now they have all been sent to the primitive secret realm. Zhu Yi walked to the throne, sat down slowly, and nodded. How many are there? About 1 million. Zhu Yi rubbed his temples and said, then let them pass it on. The 4th child will do it, and the others will start the trial of inheritance on the primordial star. Those guardians are too unreliable. Such things can't be done by them anymore. Wow! A full 180 inheritance crystal pillars flew out and fell in front of a few people. After everyone was allocated, they left one by one. Chapter 5229. This is the 2nd stage, and there is a 3rd stage behind. Moreover, the Xuanwu Temple has been accelerating in the world, and has cultivated for thousands of years. With the correct guidance of the Qixin Temple, it will soon be a large number of large groups. When Yanxian appears, he will have to repeat the same mistakes. Screening at this scale, the treasures of the Temple of Qixin are consumed very quickly, and under the endless accumulation of treasures, there may not be a few eye-catching powerhouses in the end. Among the hundreds of millions of Dayan immortals, it may be finally screened, and there are only less than 10,000 people who can enter the threshold of the Temple of Forbidding God. Yanxian, Dayanxian, Emperor. Every step is extremely difficult. The difficulty of Master Yanxian mastering Dao, the difficulty of De Yanxian combining Dao, the difficulty of Emperor wanting to reach the top. These are not treasures that can be pushed flatly, except for the treasures, the cruel rules that can help them. A 9 primordial star feathered the continent. Broken! Hui Qing shouted angrily, swept the long stick, directly shattering the broken army's divine body, and the origin was all withered. Stop! Pajun couldn't hold on anymore, and he couldn't run away if he wanted to retreat. What many strong people look at is trembling. I originally thought that Hui Qing would fall today, and Lord Wu Dao came personally, but I didn't expect much to end up like this in the end. First, Jian Wushuang was born, and defeated Dao Jun Lingshuang upset, and then Dao Jun Wanqing revealed the half-step emperor's means to frighten everyone. Now Hui Qing is fighting the army and begging for mercy. This battle will change the division of the Eclosion continent. At least Jian Wushuang and Hui Qing are already ranked among the Dao monarchs, and they are still the top Dao monarchs. Wanqing Daijin's eyes revealed the intent to fight. Hui Qing's strength indeed exceeded his expectations, but it was also the best. He wanted this kind of opponent. On this primordial star, he hadn't paid attention to the other 4 Dao monarchs from the beginning. Whether it was Leng Shuang or Blood Moon, the only breaking army who felt a little bit interesting was now beaten up by Hui Qing, which was utterly devastated. As for the Taoist sundering heaven, his strength just touched Taoist, and he has been using a secret treasure fox to fake tiger power. Among the 5 avenues, his strength is the weakest, and even the 6th-ranked Ji Chaoyang can resist him. A stick pierced Pojin's chest. Hui Qing stood proudly in the void and said coldly, "Hand over the token, you can spare your life." Although his personality has changed drastically, the kindness in this life has not been shaken. If you can kill it, you can't kill it. Jian Wushuang was watching from the side anxiously. If it weren't for Wanqing Daojun to stare at him, he would want to rush over and break the army. The 2nd-ranked Taoist monarch may have hundreds of millions of records on his body. If he is beheaded, the two will evenly divide the record and win the 1st and 2nd place of this original star. There are not many such opportunities. If it were normal, without the strength of Wanqing, it would be too difficult to kill Daojun. Since the matter has reached this point, Wanqing didn't say anything, and the other Dao monarchs didn't dare to act rashly. Seeing the tragedy of the broken army, it is inevitable that some rabbits and foxes are sad. Once aloft, now the throne is broken. Especially the Taoist Sundering Heaven, his title is very arrogant, but since seeing Wanqing show his true strength, he has no trace of arrogance at all. His strength is okay to bully those half-walkers. As far as the current situation is, he is the weakest among his peers. Relying on which secret treasure in his body, he reached the level of Dao Sovereign. In the outside world, he has been low-key, just an ordinary peak of the great emperor. Since arriving in the temple of Qishan, he has no scruples, and then he fully uses the secret treasure in his body, and his combat power has soared to Dao Sovereign level. This secret treasure came in a wrong way, and he didn't dare to use it outside. He glanced at the defeated army, and finally focused on Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang also felt the gaze, frowned slightly, and looked at Dao Sovereign Tier Heaven. Such blatant gaze is disrespectful to the strong, even if he is of the same rank. In an unfamiliar situation, such gaze, Jian Wushuang did not give the opponent a good expression. His face was furious. Although he didn't know much about these Dao monarchs, looking and observing it, the Dao monarch tearing heaven was the most inconspicuous among the 5 Dao monarchs. He was not afraid at all. The emperor present could threaten him as well as the Wanqing Daojun. Besides, Hui Qing's strength is terrible now. Together, even Wanqing is not afraid. The severely wounded Bro Jun clutched his broken chest, crouched and turned his head to look at a few Dao monarchs watching the show, feeling a chill in his heart. A wise life, bewildered for a while. If he could seriously hurt Hui Qing, I am afraid that these people will stand on his side, and even besiege Hui Qing together. Even if he does not get the inheritance, it is a good thing to accept the record. But now it was him who was injured, but these people blocked the way. God wants him to die. Handing over the identity token is simply a delusion. He has worked hard all his life in exchange for this strength, and now he can get great fortune in the temple of Qishan. How can he give up like this? You don't want it. Hui Qing's long stick swept away, her eyes shrank, and a Nai's intent to kill appeared. Although he doesn't like killing, he is not a virgin either. Jian Wushuang nodded to the side. This is the right way. I really don't want to do it, but he also solved the 2nd-ranked Daojun for Hui Qing. Ha! Pajun laughed frantically, straightened up slowly, glanced at several Daojun coldly and mocked. You stinky kid, do you think I will bow to you? The strong. At this moment, the broken army revealed the posture of a strong man. Jian Wushuang frowned. He was too familiar with this momentum, and he had seen many strong people, whether it was Yenxian or Dianxian, or those strong in the Supreme period. They all have the aura of Pajun now. The strong are not divided into ranks. The strong in the Supreme and the strong in the Emperor are the same. They are invincible at the same level. How can they reluctantly bow their heads at the same level, even if they are dead? Let's do it. Let the old man see what else you can do. Breaking the army was not desperately defending at this moment, but took out all the strengths in one, fighting back. If he could escape, he would have escaped long ago, and the other Taoists would not let the tiger go back to the mountain. Good. Hui Qing understood what the other party meant and nodded slowly. This time he didn't use the silver long stick again, but slowly raised his finger, a very random finger, a breath that shook the world and the earth rushed out. This breath made the quartet world rise, and the deadly primordial star trembled. The dazzling light shot from the fingertips, and a beam of light that ruined the world shot out. The dazzling light made Pajun couldn't open his eyes, biting his scalp and glaring, only to find that he didn't even have the ability to resist. The powerful light passed through Pojun's body, his entire physical body was wiped out by the light, the divine body was completely shattered, and the origin was like a withered flower, gradually withering. Chapter 5230. The dazzling light did not dissipate for a long time. Leng Shuang and tearing the sky were good, hiding far away. Dao Jun Blood Moon, who was blocked by Wanxing, was covered in cold sweat behind him. He was just preparing to join the battle and beside Hui Qing. If Wanxing hadn't stopped him, I'm afraid he will not be much different from Pojun's fate now. At that time, the broken army was injured. Even if the two of them went together, they would definitely not be Hui Qing's opponent. Wanxing Daijin's expression was also full of shock. He was too familiar with the breath that burst out from that finger just now. It was a top-notch jerk, much stronger than the he had cultivated. Is this the preference of the Temple of Fortune? Wanxing couldn't help but sucked in a cold breath, and he already had half the power of the emperor in that blow. This is nothing, everyone present, only Jian Wushuang knows, Hui Qing is only 9th rank. Rank 9 has half a step of the emperor's strength. How terrifying this is. I am afraid that those 5th-order emperors were not so abnormal when they were in the 9th rank Dian Immortal. It's a monster. Jian Wushuang mastered the extreme Dao, and only after he became rank 9 did he barely reach the level of Dao Sovereign, and Hui Qing took a half step directly to the emperor. Originally thought that after entering the 9th rank, he would be able to get rid of all the same ranks and truly be invincible at the same rank, but now it seems that he thinks too much. It is a fact that Hui Qing is stronger than him. The Dian Immortals on the periphery moved tens of thousands of miles at this time, and the strong light made them unable to see exactly what happened. The light faded, the aura of breaking the army was shattered, and the aura of the demon monk Hui Qing was still there. Broken army has fallen? Some people can't believe that a Taoist who ranked 2nd in the record list has fallen. How is this possible? The demon monk can actually kill Dao Jun. The sky is about to change. Everyone prepare to leave the Eclosion continent. The emerging continent is really going to change, and now Dao monarchs are in danger of losing their lives, let alone those half-walking Dao monarchs. A 9 original star, record ranking. First, Demon Monk Hui Qing 2nd, Blood Moon Daoist 3rd, Lengshuang Dao Jun 4th, Swordsman of Heaven 5th, Wanxing Dao Jun Hui Qing wins the first prize. 10 billion record. Hui Qing sighed secretly in her heart. Originally, he planned to divide half of his record to Jian Wushuang, but Pajun was unwilling to hand over the token. Brother Wushuang. Hui Qing put away her whole body, her aura became gentler, and she leaped to Jian Wushuang's side. Brother Wushuang, thanks a lot this time. Jian Wushuang didn't care, shrugged and said flatly, it has nothing to do with me, even if I don't come, why don't they come to you? Not to mention the power of the ray of light just now, just relying on the combat power that can crush the army, other Dao monarchs can't come to Hui Qing. As for the Wanxing Dao Jun, even if he is not an opponent, he can still escape. The reason why the broken army has reached such a point is that it was careless at the beginning, and it was absolutely foolproof. As a result, he lost his life and couldn't escape. The 5 great lords are not a group at first, they are all cruel figures who kill you when you are sick. This record. Hui Qing was a little embarrassed, holding her identity token a little embarrassed. Jian Wushuang saw his scruples, patted his shoulder heavily, jokingly said, why, less than a year, you have begun to pity me, don't forget that you used to be a little novice with your legs, to the point of relying on others to give alms to the rankings. Recalling that the weak little novice monk who had to hold his thighs when escaping is now so strong that Jian Wushuang is very emotional, really good luck. Those few of his masters can be stunned. Wanxing Dao Jun looked at Jian Wushuang and Hui Qing frowned slightly. The relationship between the two was unusual, otherwise Jian Wushuang would not directly attack Dao Jun without knowing anything. It seems to be the friend of life and death. This kind of person is much more reliable than the so-called allies, life and death acquaintances, fateful friendships, the kind who can give their backs to the opponent in battle. This dispute now seems to be the same. I am afraid it is not realistic to want to fight again. The trial is now worthy of the past 10 years, and it is not yet time for a big battle. Lung Shuang was injured, the strength of tearing the sky was not enough, and the moon's combat power was average. Hui Qing and him were the ones who could really fight on this primordial star. As for Jian Wushuang, although the methods are weird, in the face of absolute strength, all sidelines are vulnerable to a single blow. Wan Xing's eyes turned to look at Hui Qing, with a sharp aura. Hui Qing turned and looked back, putting a smile on her face, as if she was facing an enemy. Wan Xing. Jian Wushuang didn't panic at the back of his hands, his thought power was very strong, not to mention the half-step emperor, even the emperor was not as good as him. He was able to sense that the Wanxing Daojun had war intent, but he had no determination. In this battle, the 8 achievements ended in the defeat of the army, and if the battle continued, it was a battle of spirits. Hui Qing was inherited and cultivated his utmost knowledge. They were willing to come over to be a sharpening stone. Hui Qingmai would be a dead word if he didn't pass, but if he passed, he would be a carp leaping over the dragon gate. From then on, this primitive star is no longer threatening. The first throne is also extremely stable, no one can shake it. But other people don't have the powerful thought power of Jian Wushuang, and you can spy on others at any time. What they saw was that another world-destroying battle was about to take place, and they were now beginning to fear that these Taoists would suddenly come to sweep them, and they retreated tens of millions of miles away to keep a safe distance. Let's fight. You are all dead, and I am the number 1 Ji Chaoyang. Ji Chaoyang, who is second only to Dao Jun in strength, was very low-key in this battle, and had no idea of going up and taking part. He has inheritance and unique knowledge, and there is no shortage of treasures. In addition to his strength, he is very similar to God Emperor Malong. Mo Long's strength is the ultimate emperor, but he can reach the level of a half-step Dao monarch, even comparable to that of a Dao monarch. No, I really want to fight. Everyone was squeezing sweat in their hearts, and their throats raised their hearts. If you really want to fight again, it will be good for them, and the strongest at the top will almost die, and they won't be the top. But there is also one thing they are afraid of, that is, no matter who wins or loses, the one who survives will become the strongest of this primordial star, without restraint and control, and wanton slaughter. They dare not imagine that scene. At that time, all ants under Dao Sovereign, there is no level to be divided, they are all prey. Guru. Many people were watching their every move, as if they were about to grasp the moment they were doing it. The few at the core, except Jian Wushuang, all clenched their fists, and the sweat on their palms was enough to prove how nervous they were. Wanxing Daojun breath rises like a long dragon, standing in the void is like the master of that void. This is a sign of stepping into the threshold of the origin of space. Jian Wushuang is also frightened when he sees it, the origin of space. Chapter 5231. That is the powerful source cultivated by the emperors. Look at it, it's time to do it. Many people on the periphery exclaimed, and couldn't help but retreat thousands of miles away. At this moment, everyone held their breath and stared at Dao Jun Wanxing. He raised his hands slightly and the corners of his mouth opened slightly. Congratulations! Wanxing Daojun, with a smile on his serious face, clasped his fists in his hands. Ho ho ho! A rush of gasps could be heard through Jian Wushuang thousands of miles away. Gone! The faces of many powerful people turned red, and finally Wanxing Daojun actually uttered these 2 words. Even Lung Shuang and Dao Xiaoyin took a deep breath, really wanting to fight, and really don't know who they are going to help. It's no good for her to help Wanxing, and it's no good to leave. Fighting at this level and fishing in troubled waters are in danger of falling. It's best to end the game. The other Dao monarchs, even if they are reluctant, but now Wanxing, as a half-step emperor, has taken the initiative to try it out, and congratulated Hui Qing for getting the inheritance of the Temple of Qi. Ji Chaoyang, who had been watching from a distance, saw that after not fighting, he flew over without any fear. It's too late to come down. Seeing people coming, everyone looked at it together. Fortunately, Wanqing and the others knew the person in front of him, but it was the first time that Huiqing saw him, and when he saw someone coming, he also leaked a hint of curiosity. Seeing that no one introduced him, Ji Chaoyang cheeked, coughed, and solemnly said, "Let me introduce my identity first. I am the Ji family dynasty, the first Taoist in the contemporary era, Ji Chaoyang." It's still so shameless. The Taoist Ripper frowned and said mockingly, "This season Chaoyang's strength is not weak at all. Although he hasn't reached the level of Taoist monarchs, it is almost the same. Moreover, this guy is quite good at picking people, and has been pestering him, fighting and not running, as if he was a grindstone. Because of this, the master of the heaven-tearing heaven is extremely disgusted with this person." Jian Wushuang mobilized his thoughts and observed Ji Chaoyang, but he leaked a hint of smile, his face appeared a touch of playfulness, and he took the initiative to sign up for Jian Wushuang. Huiqing. How could Ji Chaoyang think that these two peerless and ruthless people were so easy to talk? They started to speak familiarly. "Brother Hui and Brother Wushuang are so powerful that they make Xia feel inferior, and I really admire Xia extremely. Life is in danger, come and make friends with the two. I think you are just a piece of dogskin plaster, catch who is sticking to who." Dao Tian Xuantian sneered unscrupulously. Ji Chaoyang's complexion changed, and he became angry. "Tear the sky, what do you mean? It's fine to look down on the next," and even dared to turn around and curse Brother Hui and Brother Wushuang. "Don't think you are a Taoist and I am afraid of you. I joined forces with Brother Hui Wushuang, and I can deal with you more than just rubbing." Dao Jun Wanqing frowned. He originally wanted to find out what kind of genius Huiqing cultivated, but now he was disturbed by this stuff, so he didn't know how to speak. The Taoist swordsman standing on the side was even more so annoyed that he couldn't speak, pointing to Ji Chaoyang's face blushing, and he couldn't say a word. Jian Wushuang glanced at a few people, and finally stayed on Xie Tian, and said coldly, "Forget it, I'll pass Huiqing and I'll ignore the villain. Xie Tian will speak carefully next time." His eyes stared at Dao Shou Tian without any scruples, and his powerful thought power directly wrapped the opponent's body. That's it. No wonder tearing the sky watching him from time to time, and at first thought that this kid had a hobby of short sleeves, but there was another reason. With a trace of ancient aura, Jian Wushuang keenly sensed the familiar feeling in the opponent's body. Tier Tian's face was gloomy at this time. He didn't know whether Jian Wushuang was really angry, or he noticed something was wrong. No matter what the possibility, he didn't want to stay here anymore. "Leave that thing where you are for a while, and I will take it back sooner or later." Dao Shou Tian secretly vowed in his heart. "Even if you are seriously injured, you have to take it." He was afraid that Jian Wushuang had been following Huiqing, so that he had no chance at all and had to leave now. "Everyone, I'll say goodbye first," Dao Jun said in a low voice. His figure flashed back 10,000 miles, and then burst out with all his strength, but the breath disappeared into the void in an instant. Xueyue and Lingshuang Dao Jun are also afraid that Wanqing and Huiqing will conspire together, and they will bid farewell and leave. If they meet again, it is estimated that they will fight for life and death. As soon as these people left, Ji Chaoyang was also a little panicked. Looking left and right, now that anyone on the court can abuse him, especially Huiqing, he can feel the intense silence. When encountering such an opponent, he will undoubtedly die. Unless you use the transfer order granted by your clan, you can escape. Huiqing, I'm very curious why you were suddenly given the inheritance from the Temple of Qishan. Wanqing still spoke, but he knew that even if he knew these things, it was impossible to tell him, so he tactfully said, "If it is inconvenient, don't speak." Huiqing sighed lightly and said gravely, "It's not that I don't want to say, I don't know why I suddenly accepted the inheritance of the Temple of Qishan." Dao Jun Wanqing nodded, looking at Huiqing's eyes. He could feel that the other party did not seem to be lying. Of course, he could not rule out Huiqing is a master of lying, and he blurted out the lie without missing the slightest. Flaws. Jian Wushuang, who was standing by, frowned. Wanqing was indeed asking too abruptly, And Hui Qing had a good temper. If it were him, a sword would go out and ask the sword. Based on his understanding of Hui Qing, what Hui Qing said just now was indeed not a lie. He was originally curious, but now that he knows it, he has fulfilled his curiosity. Inheritance, unique learning. Now Jian Wushuang has seen its power. No matter how strong his Tao is, he has no treasures and no powerful inheritance, his combat power will fall a lot. When Hui Qing accepted the inheritance, he was only a half-step prince, and now he was almost half-step an emperor. He is also rank 9, and he is at the level of Tao sovereign if he hasn't cultivated his geniuses. If he cultivates his geniuses, he will be able to show up to 12% of his combat power. By then, his strength will also increase sharply, and he should not be weak. Yu Hui Qing. Okay, since that's the case, I will also leave first. Wanxing Daojun always maintained a gentle posture. Although the initial problem was a little uncomfortable, Jian Wushuang was also impressed by him. The former Juyu Daoist and now Wanxing. Jian Wushuang has seen the style of the top powerhouse in other worlds in the universe. The Tao monarchs left one after another on the field. Now Jian Wushuang, Hui Qing and Ji Chaoyang are left. Jian Wushuang turned his eyes to each other and said, "Brother Ji, you are hiding enough." As soon as these words came out, Hui Qing's expression was overwhelmed, and her breath rose sharply. Ji Chaoyang's complexion changed drastically, putting away the playfulness he had just now, and hurriedly backed away. But where can he retreat? The world of heart swords has already quietly arrived, and the powerful heart and sword intent have made Ji Chaoyang frightened. Chapter 5232. He found that the moving order had been invalidated, but how active his mind was that he couldn't command the moving order. He was about to cry in a hurry now. What the is this? Hui Qing watched for a long time and found that Ji Chaoyang had been standing still, without the slightest aura of threat, looking at Jian Wushuang in doubt. Hui Qing, don't get too excited. Jian Wushuang pressed his hand, and then faintly said, "Brother Ji, don't get too excited. If you were to deal with you, you would have died 10,000 times earlier." He didn't scare the opponent by this, and he really wanted to use it to swallow the opponent within 10 moves. He had information. If it was someone else with a solid record, he would really be a black hand, but Ji Chaoyang is not ordinary, because they are of the same kind. They are all 9-rank Dayan immortals. Jian Wushuang had a direct showdown, telling the true state of Ji Chaoyang. As soon as this remark came out, Hui Qing was shocked before he had time. Ji Chaoyang took a deep breath, covered his mouth with both hands, and screamed hard. "Are you an emperor?" Ji Chaoyang let go of his hand covering his mouth, and tremblingly raised his finger to Jian Wushuang. The transfer order and the Zhenxin talisman, these are the innate top treasures given to him by his father, one for escape and the other for hiding power. His father once told him that the Zhenxin talisman can hide his breath and strength, and the biggest use is to hide his realm. Even the emperor can hardly see his true realm. Now Jian Wushuang saw it through. He admired his father very much, and he was a very firm believer. Can see his true state, then only the emperor. Jian Wushuang was dumbfounded by his action. "I am not an emperor, but I have a treasure that can see the true state of the other party. It is a bit tasteless, but it comes in handy here." The Nineth rank Dayan immortal, but he has the strength of a half-trouble monarch. Brother Ji is extremely talented, admire it. Hui Qing's eyes beamed, and he shouted admiration. Jian Wushuang also said, "Could it be that Brother Ji is the ultimate existence?" After confirming that the two were not malicious to him, Ji Chaoyang let out a sigh of relief, and soon turned into that kind of cynical gesture. Brother Wushuang has a good eye. It is indeed the 9th rank Dayan immortal, that is, an ordinary ultimate way, and it is not the two brothers for the time being. Ji Chaoyang coughed a few times and was humble. Jian Wushuang showed surprise on the surface, but he was funny in his heart. If it's so predestined, why don't we talk? Then it's better to be respectful. Ji Chaoyang also wanted to make friends with strong men like Jian Wushuang and Hui Qing, and did not refuse. If the two wanted to deal with him, he had indeed been several times earlier, so it would be better to take the opportunity to win him and have a backer. He currently has a long way to go to the 9th rank to achieve consummation, and he also needs a strong ally. As the three left together, there was no one on this battlefield, and the silence was restored. The space split, and a huge castle fell from the sky, slamming heavily on the ground. Said it is a castle, in fact it is more like a city. It has a length and width of tens of thousands of miles, and it is the size of some mundane planets. The fortress fell, and the messenger of the Vermilion Bird Palace escaped from a crystal-clear white crystal ball and threw it into the castle. Then her figure disappeared, and she went to the next primitive star. And Giaggio primitive star trembles at this moment. The war has just ended, and a new storm will soon be set off. The white orb fell into the castle, and a sky pillar burst out, leading directly to the barrier at the highest point in the void. After touching the Tianju, the enchantment of the entire primordial star made a crackling sound. Such a big movement caused all the Dian immortals on the primordial star to rise and go straight into the void. The hundreds of thousands of Dian immortals who were still alive looked at the enchantment exuding the lightning silver snake and couldn't help but gasp. What are you doing? Everyone issues questions at the same time. What are you doing at the Temple of Qishan? I just found a cave, and before I had time to communicate the ultimate way, I was disturbed by this movement. Jian Wushuang and the three of them leaped into the air one after another, and the powerful aura directly radiated out without hesitation. After all, one of the strongest players of this primitive star right now is that Jian Wushuang is at the level of Dao Sovereign, and even Ji Chaiyang can be comparable to Dao Sovereign. The three of them walked sideways on the primordial star and none of them could threaten them. Who is so courageous, dare to disturb a few of our brothers? I want to see who is so courageous. The treasure Ji Chaiyang uses is a sword that opens the sky, and the light blue breath surrounds the sword. He directly carried on his shoulders, stood swaggering in the void and roared. Hui Qing was as calm as ever, looking up at that level of enchantment. Disturbed. A strong sense of anxiety made Jian Wushuang very uncomfortable. What kind of trick is this Temple of Fortune playing? Didn't it say that it's been a trial for 30 years? Is this a remorse? Don't look down on them like these people want to drive them out? Wouldn't it be so stingy? This is also to blame for the original guardian who left the token and left, because of the short words of token, there are only 300,000 to 500,000 Dian immortals left. What are you going to do now? Jian Wushuang's thoughts spread out and he scanned the surroundings for thousands of miles. At the same time, the Dian immortal in the mountains also broke out of the sky. No matter how strong it was not hiding. Divine Emperor Mo Long, who had been hidden for a long time, also broke ground. Although all the treasures were lost, his perfect flesh and powerful divine body were still there. In the past 2 years, he had regained most of his strength by virtue of his strong background. This call? It comes from the Eclosion continent. Mo Long hesitated in his heart. Now he is a useless man, a savage without an identity token. Do you want to go? There may be a silver lining to go, and there is nothing if you don't go. Humph. Mo Long snorted coldly. An ordinary 9-ranked perfect Dian immortal actually dared to fly in front of him. Grab him casually. When I asked, I realized that something really happened in Yuhua continent. Countless powerhouses are flying in the direction of the Eclosion continent, and Mo Long has also joined them. Some of the top Dian immortals who had just left the emerging continent, and even the pinnacle Dian immortal, also changed their directions and returned to the emerging continent. All this is not only the call, but also the change in the identity token. On Jian Wushuang's side, he took out the token at random and looked at the change above. His eyes trembled. Primal Star, the first stage of the highest trial is completed. Finally ranked 21st. Trial, Jian Wushuang. Record conversion, 1,000 treasure points. Is it 1,000? This is not the key. What is more serious is the final ranking. He has the heart to die. In the past, he didn't care too much, but now that Hui Qing is so strong after getting a quake, how can he be willing to rank so low? Obviously have the strength to enter the top 10, or even the top 3. Now everything is back to 0, and the ranking is solidified. Chapter 5233. Too big. Jian Wushuang's heart was bleeding. The Temple of Qixin, the 10th year of the highest trial of Dian Immortal, is also the 10th year of the advent of the new era. The Primal Star trial opens the second phase. The call in the dark made them unable to take care of so much, so they could only gather towards the guiding place. Jian Wushuang also put away the token, looked at the center of Yuhua continent with a heavy expression, and said solemnly, "You have also sensed it?" Hui Qing and Ji Chaoyang nodded at the same time. "Then go and see what tricks the Temple of Qixin is playing again." Boom! The three of them exploded at the same time and hurried to the place where they were directed. On the road, the Peak Dian Immortal or the Extreme Dian Immortal all marched towards that position in unison. Jian Wushuang and others were very close to that location. Only an hour's journey away, they saw the magnificent city that appeared out of thin air. At this time, many strong people have gathered here. They just arrived, and they attracted everyone's attention. After all, Hui Qing is now one of the strongest in this primitive star, and everyone has already reclassified them. Hui Qing didn't compare much, forcibly killed the second-ranked Pejuan, ranked first in record, and had been secretly called the Half-Step Emperor. The same is true for Wanqing. He used to be Wanqing Daojun, but now Wanqing Heavenly Emperor. The two powerhouses are the only ones on this primitive star. After that, Jian Wushuang and Shuiyue were powerhouses at the Taoist level, but seeing that Ji Chaoyang was now following Jian Wushuang and Hui Qing, they also assigned Ji Chaoyang to the Taoist level. This breath. Jian Wushuang looked at the heavy breath of the city. This is the heavy lifelessness in the ancients. He is very familiar with it. The three came under the gate of the giant city, looking at the city surrounded by mist. Qiu Huangqing. Jian Wushuang looked at the memorial arch on the city gate and muttered silently. The font is naturally ancient characters, but the primordial star universe has recorded such characters. As a strong Dian Immortal, Jian Wushuang can deduce and comprehend ancient language with just a glance. It's just that these three words give him the feeling that it is too old, and even has a feeling of looking through time and space. The breath of just three words makes people throb. The emperor did not have such a majestic momentum when he visited in person. Brother Wushuang, don't look at it too much. The power of these three words is beyond our cognition. The rules are messy and interfere with the mind. Hui Qing just glanced at it, then lowered her eyebrows and quickly reminded Jian Wushuang. Indeed, as Hui Qing said, there are too many things wrapped in these three ancient texts, and it is indeed not to be seen more. I am afraid that only the emperor can understand the rules contained therein. However, Jian Wushuang's state of mind was so powerful that he had already reached the 4th level, and this little interference could not affect him. It's okay, anyway, well, go in and explore. Jian Wushuang said casually. Since this city suddenly appeared here, it must have some contact with them. It is impossible for them to create a city for them to watch. Look at the city wall. Ji Chaoyang couldn't help exclaiming. Point to the traces of depressions in the ravines on the wall. Jian Wushuang also turned his eyes to look, and when he saw the bottomless gullies, the corners of his eyes shook. It's Jian Mark. At this time, more and more Dian Immortals arrived outside the city, and they all went to the city gate to watch them first, and then went to study the sword marks that ran through the ravines. Jian Wushuang sat down cross-legged, carefully comprehending the thick sword marks, and even a trace of sword intent remained deep in the marks. Although these sword intents are very inconspicuous, Jian Wushuang, who is also a great swordsman, looks carefully. Twilight, strand by strand. The sword intent is very ordinary, but even if it fades to this now, these sword intents still contain a kind of Tao. Jian Wushuang took a breath. According to his strength, a sword cannot leave anything in Qiuhuang City, let alone make every trace of sword meaning contain Tao. The difference between him and that kendo master is not even a star. Is the emperor so strong? Jian Wushuang began to doubt life. He has also seen a lot of emperors and strong men, and he still knows a little about emperors. But the Tao contained in the sword intent of this powerful kendo is too powerful. If his current ultimate path is just a piece of grass, then the powerful path of this kendo is like a whole forest. I originally thought that even if I was not a half-step emperor, he would soon touch the emperor level, but now it seems that the difference is too much. In other words, this emperor is much stronger than the emperor he has seen. With a movement of Jian Wushuang's thoughts, it turned into an illusory arm and slowly approached the sword mark, gently stroking, feeling the sword intent more closely. Outside Xiaohuang City, there were barriers and the Dayan immortals couldn't get close at all, and Jian Wushuang could only use his powerful thoughts to penetrate the barriers before they could touch them. The ultimate sword Dao has now reached the 6th level, and it is still related to the heart sword. Although the dual strength avenue is more powerful, he wants to get rid of the intrusion of external forces and create the purest kendo. The mental power originally played the role of assistance, but now, at the 5th level of the ultimate kendo, the world of heart swords is realized, and the 6th level is the heart sword test. Now his kendo is too complicated, is not pure enough, he needs to transcend himself, get rid of the dominance of his mental strength, and realign his kendo. That's sword intent. So he is very eager to see how the emperor-level swordsmanship is different, and what is contained in it, to help him confuse the emperor-level swordsmanship. Just as Nian Li entered the gully, it was met with strong resistance. This strength comes from that trace of sword intent. Jian Wushuang's heart was horizontal, and his whole body was concentrated, turning into a dexterous little hand, constantly grabbing towards that trace of sword intent. Starve to death the timid, support the daring to death. Jian Wushuang was going to grab that trace of sword intent with his thoughts. This was too important to him. Countless powerful people around are copying the various traces on the city wall, which has already benefited them a lot. If they can capture a trace of the emperor's way, it will be a great opportunity. Almost. The illusory arm that Nian Li turned into was only a short distance away. But even at this distance, no matter how hard he increased the intensity of his thought power, he couldn't catch that hint of sword intent. The mobilization of the whole Bodhi's mind power made Jian Wushuang sweat all over his head. Hui Qing and Ji Qiang also noticed the movement on his side. They wanted to inquire but were afraid to interfere with Jian Wushuang, so they could only stand by his side and guard against other people's interference. Jian Wushuang devoted himself wholeheartedly, his eyes closed tightly. Damn it, this distance can't be crossed at all. Jian Wushuang felt that he was being tricked, giving him hope, and making him unable to do it. The closer he felt the hint of sword intent, the more he yearned for it. This strand of sword intent gave him the feeling he thought was the purest Tao. As long as he could capture it and then swallow it with thought power, he would be able to obtain the kendo contained in that pure sword intent. Chapter 5234. Call. Jian Wushuang was about to give up. There were too many people here, and he didn't dare to make much movement. But when he was about to put away his thought power, that ray of sword intent came out actively. Jian Wushuang was ecstatic, and he quickly wrapped it carefully with thought power, enduring the encroachment of the sword intent. Fortunately, what he was practicing was the ultimate kendo. Although he still rejected it, he was able to resist it. But Jian Wushuang didn't dare to look down upon this ray of sword intent. Don't look at it as a trace, but he was still rubbing it. Wrap carefully, and step by step withdrawing from the gully. After the unreal arm got out of the gully, it was obvious that the trace of sword intent was weakening. Jian Wushuang couldn't control anything else, and immediately swallowed it. Illusory arm, spreading 5 fingers, swallowing that strand of sword intent, all of this is done in the barrier, so people outside can't find it at all. It was obvious that after the ultimate kendo gained a point, Jian Wushuang slowly opened his eyes. The original kendo in the sword intent, he instantly grasped. After all, it was already integrated. Prison cage. Jian Wushuang trembled slightly, evaporating the sweat on his body. This is what he learned from that ray of sword intent. It's a pity that there are too few. If there is more, then his ultimate kendo may really break through. He took a deep breath and found that Hui Qing and Ji Qiang were around him when he wanted to get up. Brother Wushuang, did you find something? Ji Qiang asked curiously. Like other people, they can only comprehend some of the gaps that are more compatible with them, but they have very little insight from them. They can only be regarded as a rare sacred place for cultivation, which can be hundreds of times stronger than the outside world. It's just that they can't stay in this primordial star for long. They can only scan a little bit and look at all the gullies. The amount of goods they receive depends on their ability. It is not the time to retreat here. There are some small gains. This gully is a great help for me from a kendo master. Jian Wushuang nodded. Although he didn't tell the truth, he didn't say anything wrong. This is indeed a sword mark left by a sword master, and the harvest is indeed good, at least helping him find the direction of breakthrough. Ji Chaoyang was a little disappointed. He originally thought Jian Wushuang had discovered something, but now it seems to be no different from others. On the second day after arriving here, the 10,000-star Heavenly Emperor also descended outside Qiuhuang City. Like them, the Emperor Wanqing first glanced at the memorial arch on the city gate, then took a lap, and found a place to sit cross-legged and comprehend the traces on the city wall. When sitting cross-legged, he also glanced at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang studied kendo attentively and ignored it, but Ji Chaoyang shrank his neck and hid behind Hui Qing. Goodness! Hui Qing understood the 10,000-star Heavenly Emperor's war intentions, that sooner or later he would not be able to escape. Fortunately, the opponent also knows that now is not the time to go to war. Everything in the outside world can't interfere with Jian Wushuang's obsession with kendo. In the source, his avatar sits cross-legged in the ocean of the source, devoting himself to practicing. No, this road will not work. The villain with Jian Wushuang's appearance shook his head. He had already played tens of thousands of swords, but he still couldn't find a way to break through. The origin path has a qualitative change every 3 layers, and the difficulty of entering the 7th layer now is countless times more difficult than the previous breakthroughs. The previous 2 breakthroughs were all because of mental strength, and he broke through by letting the flow go. Now, getting rid of mental strength to break through is no different from climbing to the sky. It's too difficult. You can't even find a clue. Countless thoughts rose in his mind. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed a bright light, and the thoughts in his mind when his eyes were opened immediately disappeared. He has been entangled with the sword intent in that sword mark. There are so many marks on this city wall, maybe there are sword marks. There should be sword intent in this sword mark, and there should be other sword marks. Snapped. Jian Wushuang snapped to his feet, very fast, and immediately flew towards other areas. Sure enough, there are other sword marks. I was too excited just now and forgot about it. Like last time, his mind power turned into an illusory arm, entered the enchantment to touch the sword mark, and finally entered the depths of the sword mark to search for the sword intent. Now, in his kendo origin, there is a trace of sword intent origin. Those remaining sword intent, when encountering Jian Wushuang's illusory arm, he thought it was the same kind, so he took the initiative to come by. This made Jian Wushuang overjoyed, and he obtained a trace of the origin of sword intent without any effort. He was not in a hurry to enlighten, but wandered in front of the ravines to collect the origin of sword intent. The city of Qiuhuang, which is tens of thousands of miles long and wide, has a city wall that stretches for tens of thousands of miles. There are hundreds of millions of dense gullies on it, and there are hundreds of thousands of sword marks alone. Fortunately, the more sources of sword intent he swallowed, the easier it was to collect them, so he began to walk around Qiuhuangqing to find the source of sword intent step by step. His move was quickly discovered by other powerhouses. After all, Jian Wushuang is now a man of the world, a powerhouse at the Taoist level, and every move will make others pay attention. At first, they also quietly followed Jian Wushuang, carefully observing the place where Jian Wushuang stopped to see www. Novel. They found that they were all traces of kendo, which was of no use to them. Even the Dayan immortal who practiced the roots of kendo didn't notice that there was something wrong. Soon these people dispersed, leaving Jian Wushuang alone to sweep the sword marks. It took 1 day, 2 days, and until a month later that Jian Wushuang had wiped out all the sword marks. This time I made a lot of money. Jian Wushuang licked his lips and his eyes lit up. The origin of a million Dao sword intent, once condensed, is no less than a complete Dao. Jian Wushuang randomly found an open space and sat cross-legged. Millions of sword intent rose in the sea of his origin. Jian Wushuang turned into a villain standing in it, shouting, "Hey!" Numerous kendo origins that had been swallowed began to fuse. The powerful sword intent made Jian Wushuang ecstatic. It's a sword. The origin of the sword intent finally condensed an illusory long sword. Jian Wushuang's heart moved, and from this illusory long sword, he saw a figure in white clothes Xingxue. The ancient breath leaned from his body, and Jian Wushuang's eyes shrank. The figure in between was holding a sword and was also outside a big city. According to Jian Wushuang's speculation, it should be Qiu Huangqing. The sword in white robes with a sword, but there is no sharpness in the sword intent, no sharp means of breaking everything, but it fell in Qiu Huang City, but it turned into a cage, and the sword light turned into a ball. Wrapped by Jian Wushuang looked carefully and found that the move was not that simple. A sword wrapped the entire Qiu Huang City, which seemed unrelenting, but in fact, billions of sword lights erupted inside, destroying Qiu Huang City in an instant. And the figure in white didn't even look at the city. His figure turned into a stream of light and disappeared instantly. Chapter 5235. Jian Wushuang was shocked by this short picture. It was just a sword that caused the ancient city of Qiu Huangqing to fall away, and the powerful kendo master left without even looking at it. Jian Wushuang wasn't interested in the reason for it, he was calling for that sword even more now. The illusory long sword only evolved once and then began to collapse. Jian Wushuang absorbed the powerful kendo origin, and eventually a large part of it entered his ultimate kendo, and he had no choice but to swallow a large part. He can only swallow about 20% of the origin of those Dayan immortals. This is the sword power of that swordsman power. Even if the origin contained in it is very rare, a part of it has been lost after so many years. Now he can still observe that again. One sword is already pretty good. Prison cage. Jian Wushuang frowned. The sword of this kendo power is very similar to his heart sword world, but the world of the heart sword is not full, it is more like a piece of paper, and the sword of the kendo power is more like a paper rubbing into a sphere. Jian Wushuang has a clue, but it is far from enough to make a breakthrough, but this time the receipt has already satisfied him very much. His figure turned, and he came to Hui Qing and the others. It has been a month now, Qiu Huangqing still didn't use a trace of movement, and they all began to be a little impatient. Fortunately, the ranking has been fixed, and now no one will actively provoke a fight. This place is also very suitable for cultivation. They are a little greedy for this big city when they wait. The traces of battle on the city wall alone were enough to benefit them a lot. Wouldn't there be more benefits in there? Qiu Huangqing was like a tempting piece of fat, and the saliva of these hungry wolves was about to flow out, but they just couldn't eat this piece of meat. Jian Wushuang fell down and glanced around. This is the gate of the city. Most of the strong are here to comprehend. They also think that if the gate suddenly opens, they will be the first to enter. There are almost 400,000 cultivators here. Jian Wushuang glanced at the crowd and said lightly. Ji Chaoyang was also lazy to comprehend the traces on the city wall. He was very confident in his ultimate way. The battle traces left by these strong men were absolutely the same. After just a few glances, he waited boringly here. Now that Jian Wushuang came back, he leaked a smile. Brother Wushuang, be surprised. I didn't expect that there would be so many tortoises with shrunken heads. I thought there were only 100,000 people at most. Ji Chaoyang looked at those people, very disdainful. Jian Wushuang gave a faint smile, and didn't say much. When Ji Chaoyang first came to Primordial Star, he was estimated to have half the power of the Taoist king. He had no idea how difficult it was for the weak. He also fought with Hui Qing in the mountains, designing traps to kill those Dayan immortals. At that time, they also had the power of the peak Dayan immortal, and in the end they grew up in battle, slaying the limit Dayan immortal, and defeating the Emperor Malong. After entering the Eclosion continent, he broke the cocoon and became a dish. Wait, it should be waiting for everyone. Jian Wushuang guessed. Qiu Huangqing will be opened sooner or later, and it is estimated that there will be a time limit. Anyway, they are not waiting here in vain. Isn't there still those powerful battle traces for them to comprehend? The existence that can leave marks on the city wall is at least the strongest among the emperors. Especially the sword in white, Jian Wushuang's eyes were full of yearning. Powerful. Once the heart of the strong is planted, it can never stop. The white swordsman power left a strong stroke in Jian Wushuang's heart, and he broke the city with a single sword. Then the other traces must have been left by a strong man who was weaker than the white sword god. However, no matter how weak they are countless times stronger than them. While they were still waiting quietly, outside of the Yuhua continent, it was already difficult to see the cultivators. In a month's time, even if the 9th-ranked Dayan Immortal drove with all his strength, he would almost reach the Yuhua continent. At this time, the sense of summoning is so strong, and there are still people who are unwilling to come. It is estimated that they are also completely hopeless. Darkness struck from the void, but in an instant it covered the mountains and then spread to the Eclosian continent. Those Dayan Immortals who hadn't come to the Eclosure continent could not sit still anymore, and they walked out of the cave and soared into the air. What is this? A 9th turn perfect Dayan Immortal looked at the covered darkness, shaking in his heart. Danger! A strong crisis came as soon as it was said. They didn't even have the heart to resist, and they all fled desperately. This scene is constantly being staged in other primordial stars. Inside the Suzuki Temple. A month is too short. Zhu Yi carried her hands behind her back and looked at a piece of the sky below the main hall. All the movements of the primitive stars were happening above. She calmly said, "It's not short, their time is precious. It has been wasted a month now. In a month's time, even if the speed is slow, I can reach the mainland. For such a long time, regardless of the call, I just want to sit down and shrink my head, a cowardly move." Zhu Yi hates iron but not steel. The inheritance from this trial is extremely precious, and now I am giving them benefits. I don't cherish it, and I can't blame her for being cruel. She has given enough tips. If it is the old man of the spirit guard, it is estimated that he will not even leave the summoning crystal, so he will run away after passing down the inheritance. Inheritance is not for nothing, it's just an appetizer, to test their ambitions. If they don't have this ambition, the Temple of Qishan will not feed idlers. Those who have come outside Qiuhuang's city now haven't noticed any problems. They don't know it yet, they have passed the first level. The darkness struck, and those Dayan Immortals who were in the darkness flee desperately, trying to rush out. Click. A Dayan Immortal was broken by his waist, donating blood and spilling. In the darkness, a pair of scarlet eyes leaked out. Jie Jie. The day that was killed, not only the body was eaten away, but even the original Tao was swallowed cleanly by these monsters. If Jian Wushuang saw them, I'm afraid he would call his own expert, and the complete Tao of a Dayan Immortal was actually swallowed. It's clean and there is no waste. On swallowing, they are seniors. The darkness continued to expand, enveloping 90% of the area of the primordial star, and finally the source of darkness converged on the edge of the feathered continent and began to march. The rate of spread this time was a bit slow, but it was also several times faster than Dianxian, and it only took a quarter of an hour to reach Qiuhuangqing. The Optimus pillar in Qiuhuang city shook, and a burst of hot light burst, as if shattered the barrier in the sky. 400,000 practitioners outside the city stood up and looked up. Crackling, the entire city shook, and finally the barrier that encased the city was shattered and turned into electric snakes swimming over Qiuhuang city. Chapter 5236. Such a huge change made everyone react in an instant. Especially those Dayan Immortals who had been waiting outside the city gate from the beginning, they plunged into it as soon as the barrier was broken. Jian Wushuang frowned as he watched. What do these people think? Think of the Temple of Qishan as something? You don't really think that whoever enters has an advantage. Those who are not afraid of death have the cowardice. Those half-travel monarchs who had confidence in their own strength entered Qiuhuang city calmly, and Jian Wushuang and Hui Qing began to enter one after another. This is a recognition of your own strength. Even if you can get the treasure if you go in first, I can grab it. The city gate is very wide, thousands of miles long and wide. It was enough for them and the Dayan immortals to enter together, but some people hesitated and wanted to enter at last. Whether it was for the purpose of picking up leaks, or holding the mentality of being a cannon fodder who entered in front, these people did not panic at all. In just one cup of tea, all 400,000 Dayan immortals had entered Qiuhuang City, and there were 1,000 people left looking around, planning to wait. But at this moment, the gate of Wanli suddenly closed. Sure enough, this city is really strange. A rank 9 Dayan immortal exhaled deeply, as if he had just escaped a catastrophe. Even if you don't go in, whether it's good or bad, I can at least look at the traces left by these emperors on the outside of the city. The other Dayan immortals also nodded. They were not good at first, and they probably didn't have much chance to go in, so they might as well just practice outside the city. It's over. Inside Qiuhuang City. Just after they entered the city, they were teleported to the wall. At this time, a Dayan fairy stared at the people outside the city and said with a trembling voice, "They're done." Jian Wushuang stood on the city wall, looking across the entire feathered continent, but the people outside the city couldn't see him. He could see any place outside the city, especially the darkness spreading from far away. Jie. A million miles away from Qiuhuang City, the darkness suddenly stopped spreading, but after it stopped, countless dark ghosts and demons suddenly rushed out. These ghosts are not like the ghosts after the emperor's fall in the great wilderness. Jian Wushuang can clearly see that they are wise. Moreover, the strength of these ghosts and demons is at the rank 9 level at the lowest level, even the strong ones at the Taoist level. Only then did the thousands of people outside the city react, but they could enter Qiuhuang City no matter what. Temple of the Gods, enlighten me. These people are all cowardly people, and even the challenger's heart is not just thinking about entering Qiuhuang City to escape. The assault of death fell in an instant. A million li was only an instant of time, 1,000 people were no more than rubble, and they were shattered in an instant, and even a single wave could not be stirred. They can't get in. Jian Wushuang pressed his hand, and the retreating Dayan immortals dared to approach the city head and look down. Sure enough, those ghosts and demons just wandered outside the city wall with their bodies surging. They had no intention of attacking Qiuhuangqing at all. This made everyone breathe a sigh of relief. The ghosts outside the city were wandering, and there was a tremor in the city. Everyone stood on the city wall and descended into the city. Only then did Jian Wushuang notice the appearance of the entire city. The entire Qiuhuang City is divided into 4 areas, and they are in the East City. Jian Wushuang glanced at the number of people on the wall. It was about 100,000, which also showed that the others were on the other 3 walls. The wall he was assigned to was the same wall they came in. Other scenes outside the wall can be seen here, but it is certain that it should not be much different from this side. This trial is a bit interesting. Ghosts gather outside the city, and the Temple of Qishan will not let them guard this city, right? Jian Wushuang secretly guessed. As far as the number of ghosts and demons outside the East City is counted in hundreds of millions, there are 7 or 8 of them that are as powerful as Dao Jun, and there are no less than 100 at the half-step Dao Jun level. Looking at these people on the wall, Jian Wushuang shook his head. After 10 years of trial of Primordial Star, there were no more than 10,000 elites who survived, and the rest were Dayan immortals who were weak in strength and hid in the mountains from the beginning. Most of them were ordinary 9th rank perfect Dayan immortals. There are even more than 10,000 rank 9 Dayan immortals. There are only 1,000 people in the top level of Dayan immortal, and there are fewer at the peak level, less than 100 people. There are only a dozen extreme Dayan immortals. The half-walking monarchs were also wrapped in it. As for the powerhouse at the Taoist level, Jian Wushuang turned his head and looked far away. Another powerhouse standing on the city wall, Tier Heaven Dao Jun. There are 2 powerhouses at the Taoist level in Dongqing, which are pretty good. On the entire Primordial Star, even if Ji Chaoyang is added, there are only 7 Dao monarchs. Maybe Hui Qing and Wanxing Tiandi will each guard a city wall, Jian Wushuang guessed in his heart. After all, the strength of Huiqing and Wanxing surpassed them too much. The remaining city wall is probably Blood Moon, Leng Shuang and Ji Chaoyang. The strength of these three people is actually not too strong. Jian Wushuang is confident to defeat anyone, so it is reasonable to divide the three of them into a city wall. After verifying that he could not go to other city walls, Jian Wushuang began to calculate the battle power on other city walls. He had to take precautions because this time there is really a danger of death ding. There was a crisp sound, and a deep gasp came from the Tianzhu in the city. Jiajiao Primitive Star, the second phase of the inheritance trial, will start in 3 days. The sound is like a puppet without emotion at all. Inheritance trial. That has heritage. Jian Wushuang scanned the surroundings and looked at the foggy city, let alone inheritance. He didn't even have a brick. Receive the identity token now. As soon as these words came out, those Daanxians who had lost their identity tokens leaked out of joy, and for a while they were not afraid of the ghosts and charms of the outside world. Especially God Emperor Mo Long. As soon as he came out of the mountain, he learned that Jian Wushuang and the little bald donkey had the power of Dao Sovereign when he was studying the traces of those battles outside the city. After hearing this news, the Emperor Mo Long's heart was cold, originally thinking of turning over. Now there is no chance at all, unless he becomes the emperor. It is enough for him to be able to regain his identity token now. What if he loses those treasures? After he goes out, he asks his father for it, and can he not give it to him? Back in his own world, he is still the emperor. Of course, if you can get some treasures in the Temple of Qixin, it is the best. Jian Wushuang reached out and took the token flying from the Tianzhu. A little bit of strength was injected, and the token was instantly activated. He also saw the rules of this trial from the token. Temple of Qixin, the highest trial of Dian Immortal, the second stage of Primordial Star, Inheritance Trial. Jian Wushuang glanced at the above content and couldn't help but breathe in a cold breath. There are actually 10,000 inheritances in Qiuhuang City. What a wealth of wealth! Jian Wushuang looked at Qiuhuang City with scorching eyes. Chapter 5237. But these inheritances are not given to them for free. Everything is still based on strength, and the stronger the strength, the stronger the inheritance. The 10,000 inheritances in the city can't be the kind of powerful inheritance that Huiqing accepts. There are strong and weak points. From top to bottom, they are the inheritance of unique knowledge such as A, B, C, and D. Huiqing once said that the inheritance he received is unique, and it seems that it is not the same as these inheritances. Because these inheritances are all simplified versions, there are 100 copies of the first-class inheritance, and these 100 copies are the same content. Jian Wushuang was discouraged seeing this. If it were not the best match for him, he would rather not practice. It would be too wasteful of treasures and energy, and the estimate that could be improved was limited. If he is lucky, this first-class inheritance happens to be the Kendo inheritance, it would be best. But this chance is too small. Jian Wushuang can't even think about it. According to his calculations, this inheritance is probably a more popular inheritance, allowing all the origins of the genre to be cultivated. This is to maximize everyone's combat effectiveness. Class A has 100 copies, Class B has 1,000 copies, Handle has 3,900 copies, and the remaining 6,000 shares are all inherited from Ding class. Except Jian Wushuang, everyone became excited. Looking at the ghosts outside the city, the light in their eyes was even more terrifying than those with scarlet eyes outside the city. It is also mentioned in the rules that these ghosts are indeed similar to those of Emperor Diun, but these ghosts have another name. Forbidden Demon Lord. Also known as the Devouring Demon Lord, Jian Wushuang's heart moved and swallowed. Could it be? The more he thought about it, the more he was afraid. Jian Wushuang's eyes flickered. If it is really as he thought, then there will be no place for him to stand in this temple of Forbidden God. But thinking about it again, he is still fine now, and there are a lot of Dian immortals that have been swallowed, but the temple of Forbidding has not done anything to him. Thinking of this, Jian Wushuang was relieved. Keep watching the rules. Inheritance trials and inheritance of the first-class inheritance requires 100,000 treasure points. Class B needs 10,000. It takes 1,000 for the handle to wait. Ding needs 100. Jian Wushuang still agrees with this point, knowing that he only got 1,000 points of treasure when he ranked 21st, and Huiqing only got 100,000 first. He didn't know how the Temple of Qixin was converted, but now on the entire primordial star, it is estimated that only Huiqing can exchange Class A inheritance. But he just finished accepting the unique inheritance, reincarnation. It is estimated that he will not be so stupid to accept the first-class inheritance directly. Be aware that in addition to inheritance, there are treasures that can be exchanged. On the identity tokens, a dazzling array. To exchange treasures, you need to enter the city lord's mansion in the city. According to Jian Wushuang's conversion, almost a treasure point is a pinnacle treasure. The legacy of Qixin Temple is a great treasure in itself. I'm afraid they won't keep the general treasures either. What can make Qixin Temple collect is a special treasure, and there are even many treasure suits. Jian Wushuang has 1,000 treasures. Wouldn't it be possible to exchange 1,000? Looking down, Jian Wushuang quickly dispelled the stupid idea. Because there are innate treasures, and even eternal treasures. Bafeng Yunlong Seal. The simplified version of the eternal treasure, the emperor can almost stimulate all the power, and it needs 1,000,000 treasure points. Printed. Forget it, it's uncomfortable. Although it is only a simplified version of the eternal treasure, its power also surpasses the innate treasure by much. If he can get it, Jian Wushuang still decides to exchange this treasure first. He had heard that the entire primitive universe was an eternal treasure, a powerful treasure that even the ultimate emperor did not have. Jian Wushuang looked greedy, but he still looked for a divine sword that suits him. Since the Great Wilderness War and the fall of the sword, he has not had a weapon to take advantage of. The divine sword obtained from the divine emperor Mo Long can actually be used, but his strength has recently improved too fast, and the supreme long sword was quickly eliminated. Fighting against a powerful person at the Taoist level, ordinary treasures, even peak treasures, may break in the fight. The innate treasure is their magic weapon. For example, he wears the Madman Slaying Armor. This innate top treasure armor, which was obtained from Mo Long, is extremely powerful. Even now he can't activate all the powers. During the battle with Dao Jun Lingshuang, he used to resist the ice toughness of the ice crystal phoenix. If there is no madness to destroy the armor, he will be the least seriously injured, but because of the battle armor, the strength of the ice blade is weakened by 99%. The last trace of strength on him was also offset by the inner armor. Now Jian Wushuang's supreme treasure is the supreme defense of his entire body. There is a Madman Slaying Armor, which can offset 99% of external attacks and can be superimposed. Every time the same move, it will be weakened by 99%. The Ice Crystal Phoenix of Taoist Lingshuang, each attack is very single and the same in strength. It can't threaten Jian Wushuang at all. It can only play a containment role. In addition to the outer armor, there is an inner armor to protect the divine body. Jian Wushuang, who was originally a powerful divine body, coupled with the weak 90% strength of the inner armor, could not harm his divine body even if he passed through the outer armor. However, after seeing Wan Xing's strength with his own eyes, he felt that Wan Xing and Huiqing were able to break his defenses. Now it is only half a step that the emperor can threaten him, and the opponents of the Taoist level can't even break his defense, especially the Blood Moon Taoist. There is no single powerful means. He stands and lets dealing with fights will not necessarily kill him. This is the aspect of the divine body. If you want to break his origin, you have to break his divine body first. The one who can do this is not the half-step emperor, but also the top powerhouse comparable to the half-step emperor. Besides, he has the innate treasure to guard the origin. Jian Wushuang was very confident in his defense, and all of this had to be thanked by the Malong Divine Emperor. In addition to the imitation version of the Eternal Treasure, there are also a few top innate treasures. The price is around 100,000 treasure points, but unfortunately there is no long sword type. There is a magic sword among the top innate treasures, which is quite suitable, but it also needs 5,000 treasures, which he still can't exchange. Arcana points can be obtained by killing devourers outside the city. Sure enough, just like Jian Wushuang guessed, they really came to defend the city, but the benefits they gave were beyond his expectations. Devour the devil. Unlimited number. Attack Qiu Huang City in 19 times and hold a wave to get a lot of treasure points. Pass all of them and get special rewards. Now that the taboo demon lord outside the city had all retreated, Jian Wushuang didn't know how powerful each wave was. Just look at the combat power on the wall, let alone keep it to the end, it would be good to not die. The special reward is not marked, but it is certainly not simple. Now he has a lot of expectations for the Temple of Qishan. Not to mention special rewards, the treasures on paper that can be exchanged make everyone boil. Especially among the strange treasures, many of them are useful treasures to the emperor. Even if the emperor came, he was very excited, and these treasures are not available in the outside world, and can only be obtained in the Temple of Qishan. Chapter 5238. In addition to these, there are rewards for the first stage. The top 10,000 powerhouses each get a ray of Emperor's Avenue. The top 1,000 strong, each person can get the inheritance of Ding, and can also be exchanged for the most precious point. This was the reward obtained from the original identity token. Jian Wushuang gently smashed the token. Ding El's inheritance was generally tempting to him. At least Huiking's inheritance was needed to help him. Those weak inheritances did little to help him, and if he had that energy, it was better to understand his origin. Ultimate swordsmanship helped him to break through the 7th layer much more powerfully than those inheritances. After the token was crushed, 100 treasure points were added to the new token. Inheritance, treasures, special rewards, and even some exotic fruits that can enhance your strength. These things can have a much greater impact on them than in the first phase of the trial. Nowadays, many people in the city have begun to exchange treasures. Pieces of powerful pinnacle treasures, and even innate treasures, have flew out of the beam of light one after another. With this explosive magic war, I don't know how many times I have increased my strength, but I am against the peak power. A powerhouse who was originally only a top-level fairy held the magic wand in his hand and laughed madly. The momentum and fighting spirit are condensed in their hearts. At this time, there is no fear of beginning, especially those dying immortals who don't have the treasure point to exchange the innate treasure. They are crazy now than ever before. Seeing others gaining the treasure and their strength skyrocketing, apart from envy, all they have left is the intent to fight to the sky. Among the top 1,000 strong, many people have begun to accept the inheritance of Ding et al. They are both the origin Dao of the second rank, although there are strong and weak, the inheritance of Ding etc. is enough for them to use. Now these 3 days are for them to prepare for the battle, and they can improve a little. In stark contrast to these people is the God Emperor Mo Long. He now has peak combat power and no treasure on his body. However, his strength is on this city wall, and he can still rank in the top 100. Even if there is no supreme treasure, his consummation-level physical body combined with a powerful bloodline divine body can burst out with a combat power comparable to the limit Dian Immortal. If there is a powerful treasure, he can fully display the strength of the limit Dian Immortal. One move behind, always behind. Mo Long shook his head. At the beginning, his father advised him to master a fascinating school, even if it is not in harmony with the Tao. He can be compared to the half-step emperor in Dian Immortal. But at that time, he already had the ultimate strength of the great immortal. In his father's world, he could be invincible at the same level. He felt that there was too much distraction to practice the genius, so it is better to understand the origin and wait for the emperor to cultivate the genius. Now he regrets it's too late. Hey! Mo Long sighed, sitting cross-legged on the head of the city lonely, looking at the devouring demon king like a tide, with a trace of fire in his eyes. He was about to turn around, only to find that he didn't know when a towering figure appeared beside him. Familiar armor, familiar people. Jian Wushuang. Mo Long quickly got up. Mo Long, how do you feel? Jian Wushuang's back both hands, also staring at the large swallowing demons outside the city. It's okay, it's much better than the rewards of the first stage trial. I am very excited about many treasures. Mo Long smiled awkwardly. Even if his blood jade palace is disassembled, it can be comparable to those tens of thousands of supreme treasures, and the combined value is similar to those of the supreme innate supreme treasures. Now that there is nothing, it is really difficult for him to obtain the best innate treasure with his own strength. More than 100,000. He heard that those who ranked in the top 1,000 only got 100 points, and the top 10,000 only got 10 points. As long as you have a record on your body, even if you only have a few hundred records, you can get a treasure. This is probably a reward for participation. The Qishan Temple is also rare and generous for such a while. A supreme palace is a pinnacle treasure. Among the 100,000 great fairy immortals on this city wall, many of the treasures in the hands of people are ordinary great treasures. With your strength, you plan to resist a few waves of Demon King's siege. Jian Wushuang asked without a match. Mo Long was a little embarrassed, but on this city wall, Jian Wushuang, as the only powerful Taoist monarch, was able to talk to him. It should have been a face-saving thing, but when I thought of the life and death of fighting with each other a few years ago, the unforgiving person is suddenly so powerful that he is unattainable. The more he thought about this, the less emboldened he became. According to the rules, the first wave has 100,009 ranks of demon masters. Each wave increases the intensity once, and I can resist up to the sixth wave at most. The first wave of demons with a rank of only 100,099 ranks were not enough to kill Jian Wushuang and Tian Daojun, so they could naturally resist. However, in the second wave, there were 1,000,000 rank 9 demon lords, and Jian Wushuang and Terre Heaven didn't dare to say that they could resist the 1,000,000 demon lords. At this time, everyone had to join together. The third wave is tens of millions, but fortunately, the first 3 waves are at rank 9 levels. Although the number is a bit large, it does not threaten their lives. Every 3 waves increase a level. The 4th to 6th wave is the devouring demon of the 9 revolutions consummation level is also the first 100,000 to the last 10 million. Mo Long's strength under the burst can only barely reach the limit level, and it is not bad to be able to survive the 6th wave. I didn't want to earn too much. Mo Long shook his head and said with a faint smile, "The seeds of Motenghua only need 500 points to resist the 6th wave, it's almost enough." Yes, your father is an incredible powerhouse, and you don't have to fight like that. There was a powerful father or master who was much better than his peers in the beginning, and both Ji Chaoyang and Mo Long were people like plague. Ji Chaoyang belongs to that kind of character with very strong strength and talent. Even if he is not the only son, his father and the emperor have enough reasons to get a lot of treasures for this son. After all, he is the first person in the Ji family dynasty. Mo Long's father is different. His father is a powerful ruler. In their big world, his father speaks for words. He can give the treasure to whomever he wants. There is no need to consider others at all. But this is also the point. Mo Long had not been a manager since he was young, and his strength was average. With so many powerful treasures in one body, he could only exert the strength of the ultimate Dayan immortal. Although Mo Long was a little unconvinced, he couldn't refute it. If it weren't for his father, he wouldn't be better than Luo Hao. All 9th turns are complete, and the second stage Origin Dao is still at the 7th level. He Dao can barely merge, but the 7th layer of He Dao, even if it succeeds, will be much worse. Incompatible and unable to break through. Jian Wushuang saw Mo Long's embarrassment on the side, patted him on the shoulder, didn't say much, just left the other side a mustard seed before leaving. Chapter 5239. There is a set of pinnacle treasures, enough for Mo Long to use. These treasures didn't help Jian Wushuang at all, so he gave it. He was not willing to help others, nor was he pitying, he just wanted to give Mo Long a chance. Jian Wushuang glanced at the East City wall, and found that the heaven-tearing Daojun was drawing some peak Dayan immortals everywhere. Realizing that someone was watching, Tearing Sky also looked over, with the corners of his mouth rising. The two were facing each other far away, and some of the other strong men also found that their situation was not right. Dian Immortal, who had been drawn up, did not dare to stand in disorder at this time. He hadn't regarded Tyr Heaven as his opponent from the beginning, but the opponent had an ancient aura, very similar to the Eye of the Beast God, and it seemed that Tyr Heaven was staring at his Eye of the Beast God. A few years ago, Mo Long also said that the reason for his injury was also toward the sky, but when he was about to escape, he was overshadowed by the Emperor of the Daluo realm. He could have escaped without injury, but was eventually beaten to death by the torn sky. Jian Wushuang now understands that the treasure on his body has been spotted. There was a black flame in his eyes. Tearing the sky wanted the eyes of the beast god, and he also wanted to figure out where the ridiculous aura of tears came from. The two looked at each other full of gunpowder, but they separated in an instant. As for wooing people, he naturally couldn't beat the sky. After all, he was a veteran Daojun, but wooing people was useless. The rules for defending the city are clear. You need a coach, 5 commanders, and 10 generals. These positions will be blessed by them. For example, Jian Wushuang now kills 199 ranked demon kings and can obtain 10,000 supreme points. If he has the position of commander, then he can obtain 15,000 supreme points. Command can increase by 30%. The general is only 10%. The position of the coach is naturally very attractive, but everything is about strength. The coach is not selected but killed. These 3 days were considered the last time for their preparations, and the next devouring demon siege was only 1 hour between each wave. At this hour, they can exchange treasures with the supreme treasure haul they just obtained, and as for the inheritance exchange, they have no time to practice. Many of the treasures on the token are pills and fruits that quickly restore the body and origin of the gods, and of course the price is outrageous. A fruit of life can instantly restore Dian Immortal's divine body to its peak, requiring 50 treasure points. All can be exchanged for a peak arcana suit. There is also the 9 turns concentration pill, which is a great medicine to repair the origin, and the price is more expensive than the fruit of life. If you need 300 treasure points, you can redeem a few ordinary innate treasures. No wonder Mo Long lost more than half of his source at the beginning, and he only fully recovered after consuming half of the treasures to restore his source. The reason why Jian Wushuang's precious spot did not move at all was just in case. The first 9 waves swallowed the devil. He was able to deal with it, but in the next 10 waves he had nothing to do, because only 9 waves were displayed. Even if the evolution speculates, it is not easy for him to pass all levels. When those devouring demon kings first appeared, many demon kings had reached the level of Dao Masters. Who knows if there were any demon kings at the half-step Dao Master level in the end? These Dian Immortals on the city wall can accompany him to the end, probably not many. Dian Immortal at the extreme level can barely pass the first 9 waves, and then there are only a few half-walkers left. This trial is all based on personal will. As long as you resist the first 3 waves of the guarantee, you can choose to retire and go to the city to practice. Looking at these fighting intentions, it is estimated that few are willing to retire early, all thinking of fighting desperately, unable to resist it and go on. There are not many people like Mo Long in the universe. After all, there are not many 4th Order emperors, and he is still an only child. Now there are only 2 kinds of people who can survive here. One is that they don't have a strong background, and the other is that they have a strong background. These people do not lack small opportunities. What they lack is this kind of heavenly opportunity. They either came from some powerful emperor families, or some Taoists in the sect. Whether it is a family or a sect, internal struggles are always more cruel than external ones. Fighting with the outside world, everyone goes up together, taller and taller, and you can see what else. But the inside is different. The same generation are all Dian Immortals. You are the only immortal. You are not embarrassed. Everyone else is the Emperor, the pinnacle Dian Immortal, but you are just an ordinary 9-rank perfect Dian Immortal. This sense of gap can most arouse people's victory and defeat. The previous first stage trial was actually not that fair. Some ordinary 9th ranks were consummated, and they had no strength to fight, and they would die in vain. Now it's different. Regardless of your strength, you can at least fight the first 3 waves. Get the treasure points, exchange for powerful treasures and treasures to quickly increase your strength, and you can continue to fight. Jian Wushuang, who saw through this, understood these people a little bit. 3 days only passed in an instant, and the Dayan immortal on the city wall had already been unable to bear it, and at this time they were staring at the outside of the city. Those devouring demon lords have long since retreated, and now the outside of the city is empty and is completely silent. The position dispute, I am not qualified to be the coach. I should be the one in charge of the position. If you want to be the commander, at least you have to have the strength of a half-step Dao Jun. You are a limit Dayan immortal, and you want to be the commander. According to the information from Tianzhu, Dayanxian, who ranked first in the first 3 waves, can be appointed as the coach, and each position is subject to the ranking. This is the fairest practice. At the beginning, Lord Terheaven, he really naively thought that they wanted to elect by themselves. What if there is no position? The first 3 waves of danger are very small. It is our opportunity. As long as we obtain enough treasure points, we can gain a strong inheritance. Everyone is eagerly waiting for the first attack of devouring demon lord. Jian Wushuang's body was suspended in the air, looking at the barrier in front of him. The barrier would disappear at the beginning of the trial, and he could also go out of the city to kill the enemy. A bell rang, ringing in the entire primitive world. All the Dayan immortals on the primordial star heard this refreshing bell ringing, and raised their heads to the sky. The bell rang 3 times, and Jian Wushuang felt that his mental power had reached his best state at this time, which was simply amazing. Without waiting for them to think, the Tianzhu in the city behind them let out a roar. If the previous bell can refresh their minds, then the current roar would be a heavy punch, slamming them in the chest. The second stage of trial now begins. As soon as the voice of the puppet fell, the barrier outside the city began to collapse, and the barrier in the city behind him was still there. The first 3 waves were not completed, and no one wanted to enter the city. At the moment when the barrier just disappeared, the Dayan immortal on the city wall was like a vicious dog, rushing out in an instant. Tens of thousands of top-level Dayan immortals took the lead, knowing that this first wave of devouring demon lords with only 109 ranks was simply slaughtered for them. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.